afternoon, everyone, and welcome in. It is Friday, which means it's a special edition of Football Frenzy. I'm Jeff Parles, and alongside me, two of the best to ever do it. Chris Andrews, Vinny Magliulo. Also, Jimmy Vacarro will join us at 3 o'clock, assuming he's not at the spa already. He may be going after the hit.
I think he had an earlier
he had an early
appointment.
early appointment
early
today.
session.
Okay, good. We'll have Jimmy at 3, so be on the lookout for that. But, gentlemen, it's pretty crazy. We're at the end of September already. How about that?
Wow. Somebody was saying it back there. Boy, can you believe how fast football's gone? And these are all younger guys, obviously. Yeah. I said, gentlemen, let me just tell you this right now. Life goes by fast. Yeah. That's all I could tell you. Life goes by way faster than you think.
No, I'm with you on that.
I mean, just the other day, I was the youngest sportsbook manager in Nevada, 25 years old. Now I think I'm the oldest.
Are you?
Well, I got a year on Vinny, so yeah,
might be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm the oldest now.
So, gentlemen, let's dive right into this. By the way, we'll tease this now. Chris has 7 plays this week across college and the NFL.
Yeah, it was like 2-2 last week.
Yes, 2-2 last week.
Yeah.
Buffalo, two of your underdogs won outright.
Yeah, I know.
Buffalo and SMU. SMU is still scoring points on TCU a week later. Honestly, that Raging Cajun one kind of felt like you had a shot, just couldn't get a stop in the second half.
Exactly, yeah.
And then Boston College they won the game. They just didn't get there on
Won
any
by
of the
4.
numbers. Yeah, didn't get there on any of them.
But, I mean, it looked like they were going to have trouble covering all the game.
Yeah, you know what? That Michigan State team's not as awful as we thought they were.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one team that I greatly underestimated. There's a few that I did.
You weren't alone on that one, I can tell you that. Let's get into tonight.
Okay.
We got 2 games. Let's start in the ACC. Also, this is we have 3 former Big East teams playing tonight. I'm going to throw that out there whenever I get the chance.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
So Miami, we've talked about the Canes all offseason long. Talent all over the place. Heisman kid possibility in Cam Ward, who currently is the Heisman favorite at a few shops out there.
Is he?
He is.
Yeah.
He is about plus 250 right now. Most
he's a good
shops.
player. Yeah.
Miami has been dominant so far. They welcome Virginia Tech, who has been one of the underachievers so far this year. Already 2 losses.
Yeah.
Both non-con at Vandy, big favorite, lose that game. They lose to Rutgers last week as a small favorite at home. Now they go to South Beach. Chris, you guys are market high. 18 on this game with a total of 54.
We actually have pretty good two-way action on this game. We opened 20 and we're down to 18, which indicates that we got bet on the dog pretty heavily. We did, but we also have a lot of money on the favorite. So we're right now we're in pretty decent shape, and we're just in the back talking. If you look at our numbers, we're off on a few, but like we say, when they bet us, we'll move it.
Move to the under here.
Yeah, that too, which is a little surprising knowing Miami.
54 on the total, almost a couple of points to the under here. But it wouldn't shock me if this comes back up, don't you think, Chris?
We've got favorite money. I can tell you that.
And the total probably we get some over money, but between now and kickoff. By the way, these Friday nights, you gotta love Friday night. These games
and reasonable games,
and they're pretty good
Friday
matchups, which is good. So nice to have these.
Thank
these
the television networks for actually doing their parts now and getting real games on Friday night.
And TV has contributed a lot to where there's this. We've talked about how college handle has increased and really is rivaling the NFL. I mean, there was a time, Chris, we talked about how long we've been in this. It was 4 or 5 to 1. The ratio in terms of betting handle.
Vinny, like I said, I kid you, I'm 1 year older than you, so we're pretty much the same age. I tell these guys out there, when we were kids, there was one game on Saturday.
On TV.
One game. Now, like I say, if you're missing one game, you're there.
Exactly.
Where the hell is the Tulsa North Texas game? Can you believe I can't watch that one?
How dare you not have
can you believe that? I mean, that's where it's grown. But I mean, I tell kids that, and they look at you like, Are you serious? I said,
that's one of my favorite Jimmy Vacarro stories is that Nebraska-Oklahoma game that was superseded on television by New Mexico and San Jose State.
San Jose was one of the teams. I'm not sure who the other one was, but I mean, and we didn't know. There was nothing. You couldn't Google it. We didn't know what was going on. All of a sudden, you got what they gave you.
Yeah. I have nothing on this game. I will just throw out there, Miami has vaulted a nice amount of my power rankings through the beginning of the year, just because we've talked about it last week. There's always going to be this question of when will the Mario Cristobal moment come?
Yeah.
And this team might just be too talented in a league that isn't particularly good to have that moment, at least in the regular season.
I've moved them to number 8.
Yeah, I have them in the top 10
I'd
too.
have to look where I moved them to. I got them pretty high, but I don't think this is the game where one of those situations is going to come into play.
No. The other game, conference matchup in Piscataway in the other game, Big Ten, Rutgers and Washington. Throw out the record books. I can't even make that joke. They're conference opponents now. Chris, this has basically been one-way traffic on the underdog Huskies making the cross-country trip from 3 to 1.5. There's a bunch of 1. There's even 1 pick now in this in a faraway place. Total is got hit to the under early, but it's starting to come back up to 45.5.
Well, there's another one, Jeff, and this is one of the things that we don't say no to people with the counter. I know we take smaller limits on the phones. But we have plenty of favorite money on this game. And even though we did move from 3 to 1.5, and obviously we are heavy on the dog, but we have some Rutgers money. And Rutgers is a little bit of a public team right now. I expected them to do well last year. They were a little bit of a disappointment, but you could see a lot of promise in this team. And I think right now that I don't want to say they've caught the public's favor, but they certainly caught some attention, and we have plenty of money on the favorite here too. So we still need them, but it's not all that bad.
Interesting that it's come down this one. Rutgers, but listen, tough team, and they're much better at home too. Let's remember that. So I think there'll be some more Rutgers money as we get closer to the 5 o'clock kickoff.
This is a nice contrast of style game.
Yeah.
Rutgers, of course, runs the ball as well as anyone right now so far this year. Monangai is a beast at the running back position. Will Rogers, quarterback of Washington, of course, came over from Mississippi State. We've seen what happened to Mississippi State this year. My goodness. And you know what? I think the perception of Washington is a lot different if they get the ball in the end zone on that last play against Wazoo. I think the perspective of what Washington is a little different. With that said, I do like the favorite in this game. Chris.
Was that you that mentioned something about Schiano in Tennessee? Was that?
Yeah, it was me.
That was you?
I did mention
Would
that
you
earlier.
repeat that, please?
Sure. What? That Clay Travis and others ran Tennessee out of hiring Schiano, and then they ended up with Jeremy Pruitt, who was genuinely awful.
Thank you.
Granted, they ended up with Heupel now, who might not be too bad.
Okay, but that wasn't the choice at the time.
It was Jeremy Pruitt, but it was I didn't agree with what was going on the whole way at that one.
It's ridiculous.
Totally
ridiculous.
Insane. Guy's a good college coach, Greg Schiano. Don't ask him to coach the pros, but he can coach college.
He absolutely can coach college. He's been a hell of a college coach.
He's done a good job there.
Clay Travis, I don't know what happened to this guy. I really don't.
Let's go to Saturday, fellas. Let's go to the ACC. Again, these will be in rotation number order here in Nevada. So there are some games that times are a little bit different. So make sure you know what time your game is when you're betting them. This is 1:15, 1:16, a 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific start for another conference game now. Stanford goes back to the East Coast for the second straight week, taking on Clemson. Clemson, let's be real, guys. Clemson has just crushed everyone since the Georgia game.
Yeah.
And
they played a good first half against Georgia. They had one bad half this year.
And their offense was struggled the whole day, but their defense was awesome in that first half against Georgia for sure. 22.5 now on the Tigers at home at Death Valley, 58 the total, Chris.
I mean, it's one way. We opened 22. We're up to 22.5. We've had enough to have a half a point move on this game, so not that much. Not that much interest in the game, which really kind of surprised. Stanford usually brings a lot of West Coast money, and Clemson, they've fallen out of favor of the public eye, but they're still a pretty viable team. So I thought we'd get a little more business on this game, but really not much.
You know what you want to watch for, and everybody's trying to, I think, get a gauge of this. We just talked about it with Washington coming cross country, and now Stanford. The storm impacted a lot of flights in the last couple of days. So even though I think a lot of these are charters and things like that, still the impact of that I think we're trying to get a handle on that really in some of these cross country trips.
One game already axed this week. That was Appalachian State hosting Liberty. Honestly, for Liberty and their playoff chances, they kind of need to find a real game in replacement of this now.
Is this a conference game?
That's not a conference game.
Okay.
The Liberty and App State. This Stanford Clemson is, as we know.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Liberties and App State, I can't keep track of who's in what conference.
Sun Belt and CUSA for those.
Yeah, it's not postponed. It's just
canceled.
It's canceled.
Yeah. No postponement, just a cancellation for that one. All right, let's keep it in the Carolinas. We'll go to North Carolina State next. They host Northern Illinois, who look 30-point underdogs, win outright at Notre Dame, play 2 weeks later, lose outright as a 13-point favorite at home against Buffalo. Now they're back, Chris, they're back in the familiar role as an underdog against a team that, look, we say you don't look as good as you do one week. You don't look as bad as you do others. North Carolina State has had 2 really awful-looking weeks so far this year against better competition. The bettors have taken this to 8. This was 7 until about a few hours ago, but NC State favored at home in this one against the Huskies.
Yeah, this is one-way traffic here. It's all on the favorite. I think right now, interesting how to look at Northern Illinois. It wasn't that long ago, Jeff, that they were really the premier program in the MAC.
Sure were.
They were in the Sugar Bowl, I want to say, or Orange Bowl?
Orange.
I mean, that was a hell of a program. Now, they fell on hard times, but it looks like they're coming back a little bit. They get those players that are just under Big Ten level. And, well, actually, we're seeing what's going to happen. A lot of these kids that are just under Big Ten level and develop into potential Big Teners, even if they don't go to Michigan and Ohio State, a lot of them are going to wind up at Purdue and Illinois and Northwestern, Indiana, right? I think hard times are coming for this level of team. But right now, I think this team's okay. And, I don't want to go back to the Notre Dame game too often, but that can be a game that can make your season. And I hope that's not the case for Northern Illinois. Well, certainly not on Saturday because they bet me on the favorite, so I'm going to need them. And I'm okay with that at this point. I think the number was okay.
The way this game's being bet, it looks like McCall is going to be under center for the Wolfpack, right? I mean, he was questionable early in the week, and the fact that it's gone from up to 8. I mean, I think it went. What do we have? 6.5 to 7, back to 6.5, Chris, a little bit early. And then
I don't remember going back, but I got to tell you, I made this number a lot lower.
Yeah,
I mean,
I thought it was going to be south of it, a lot even further south of a touchdown than the 6, which was the market low. You opened 6.5 on this game.
I opened the market low on purpose. I made the number 3, and not so much that I love Northern Illinois, just NC State. They're just not that good.
Can I take a page from your book? I like your number better.
Thank you. Yeah, you're allowed. I didn't copyright it, Jeff. You're allowed to use that.
There we go.
Should make shirts like that.
That and you can say yours, Vinny. The good old 2-way action, but we'll get that. We'll get that at the desk.
We got a few of those.
We got a few of those. We'll get that in a little bit. Let's keep. The Carolinas obviously on everyone's mind at the top of the betting sheets this week. Duke and North Carolina, humongous rivalry game, as we know.
What time is tip-off? Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. I've got ahead of myself.
I don't know if Cameron could hold 100 yards. I'm not sure.
I don't think they could.
Wait, wrong ball. Wrong ball.
4 o'clock Eastern time, 1 o'clock Pacific. Duke, UNC. Guys, you were peaked at 3, including where you opened on this game. Now it's come back down the ladder at 2. I'll just say this. I like North Carolina in this game. I know their defense is just coming off just getting embarrassed a week ago against JMU.
It wasn't just the defense.
They turned the ball over a bunch as well. Right. There is one other factor, though, that's an intangible and has the Duke mojo going so far this year, Chris Andrews.
I've heard that.
That is something to keep in mind here.
Yeah. You don't want to cross Ann, I can tell you.
No, I do not.
I thought the opening number was okay at 3. Now we're down to 2, but this is another game. And, listen, I know I kind of brag about this every week. Our action's been terrific. And we have 2-way action on this game, mostly on the dog, which moved us from 3 to 2. But right now, like I said, I thought 3 was a decent opening number. We're down to 2. I'm okay with that. And like I said, we don't have quite the 2-way that Vinny likes to talk about, but we have some 2-way, Vincenz.
Little 1.5 way.
There you go. Okay.
Just a way and a half.
That's about right, actually.
No, and you know what? I think we seriously we realize everybody knows about the rivalry on the hardwood, but look, this is anytime that these two teams get together in whatever, these two schools get together in whatever sport, it's a big rivalry game because of recruiting, and of course now the transfer element. So,
well, let's be honest, too. They're both prestigious universities. They really are. They really
Great.
They don't like each other.
No, they don't. That's okay, though.
That adds to the rivalry.
No, look, this is. I mean, Duke Carolina football has had really no juice for most of my life, at least. And I know going back, Duke football was basically nothing. But
more juice now with playoff bids at stake.
Well, I think also too Duke's. Right? Duke's program, even though obviously now that Elko and Cutcliffe are gone,
right?
But
they had two pretty good coaches.
Yeah, Manny Diaz for this level might be pretty good. Miami was in over his head, but this a little bit down in the ACC. I think that's the right spot for him long term. All right, how about this one would also have been a good basketball game not that long ago. Maybe not now, but Maryland goes to Indiana, and guys, the Hoosiers are this will be the spot where we figure out if they are for real or not. Second conference game. They, of course, went to the Rose Bowl and really put it on UCLA 2 weeks ago. They come home, and you know what? Quite frankly, that impressed me that they really put it on a team they were supposed to put it on last week, beating Charlotte by 38. Now they're touchdown favorite in a conference game. Very different spot here for Indiana. 50.5 the total, hosting the Terrapins, who already have a conference loss on their ledger. They, of course, lost at home to Michigan State 2 weeks ago.
Well, we're getting good dog money from the sharp players, but the ticket count is highly skewed towards Indiana. They've, the public has suddenly become enamored with this team, but I can see why. They're a team that's been, and I always wonder, you have like teams like Indiana, Kentucky, even North Carolina to a certain extent. They're so good at basketball. Kansas, another great example. How come they can't get it together in football? Well, maybe they found the right guy, who, of course, is from Pittsburgh, who's coaching now Indiana. And, maybe this team could finally get up to where I think they should be, at least as good as, let's say, and maybe they're not as good as Penn State and Michigan and Ohio State, but they should at least be up to where Iowa's been many, many times, or Michigan State, perhaps.
Yeah.
Contending certainly occasionally. But I think right now they do have a good coach, and we'll see. I have a feeling he's going to nab some of those MAC players that are on the improve, and I hate to say that really is the game right now. But anyway, we've got decent two-way action on this game, from 7.5 down to 7. But the Sharps definitely on the dog, with public on the favorite, and I can see it.
Biggest move is to the total, the under. I mean, there's a 5-point move to the under. Now, I think some of the bands of this storm, Jeff, you could look, you have it pulled up there, the weather.
I'll double check.
Weather's going to be a factor in some of the, Ohio Valley area,
Rain.
I guess. Yeah. So
Rain. 10-mile-an-hour wind, so nothing crazy.
Nothing too bad.
The storm moved a little bit towards the center of the country.
A little.
So I think maybe that played into the move on the under here, but probably from what I'm looking at, it's definitely one of the biggest total moves from the opener on Monday.
This Indiana team's a lot of fun. Like Curtis Rourke is a darn good quarterback, and like you said, Cignetti has turned this thing pretty quickly for a football program that, other than the pandemic year of 2020, has really not done much of anything over the last 12 years.
Can we give a salute to Bud Elliott, who we had on this show early on?
Absolutely,
he was on it. Bud, he bet me. He made a small bet on the Indiana season win totals over. And I love Bud, and I know he's sharp, and he made a small bet, and I moved the hell off it, because I tell you, I mean, it's not just the amount, it's also the name.
Yep.
And he told me that. He said he really had much better numbers going for him, but I think he was filling out his card, and we still had a number that was workable. And he's kind enough to talk to me about it afterwards, and I listened. Hey, he's a sharp kid.
Absolutely. We loved having Bud on earlier.
Hope he's listening. Bud, we'll have you on again sometime.
Get him in the
100%.
chat. Is he in the chat?
Whatever you want.
Not in the chat yet?
No.
Nah.
Let's go to Orlando next, guys. Colorado goes to take on Central Florida. This is also a conference game now. Yeah. Chris, 14 right now with a total of 62. This one's, we'll take a Vinny word here, a toggler here has gone 14, 13.5, 14, 13, 13.5, 14.5.
Two-way action.
13.5, 14. Two-way action. 62 to total, which is the low it's been this week on the total.
This is one of the biggest bet games we have. I mean, we got a ton of action on this game. I have no real opinion. I made the number 13.5. I mean, it'd be kind of pretty fine to actually force a play here. But, a lot of people like Colorado. A lot of people like betting against Colorado. And so that's fine with me as long as it doesn't fall on the number. We're doing a ton of business. And I said this should be a great game. I have no real interest in picking a side, but it should be a fun one to watch.
And up the total, first up and then down, right? So two-way action on the total too. So nice game. Middle of the day, 12:30.
Yeah, middle of the day on this one. There are plenty of issues for Colorado.
There's not a uniform issue in this one, is there? They're both not wearing the same color this week.
I will throw this out there. If Central Florida's defense has a weakness, they really struggle stopping the pass. So,
well, we know that Colorado hates the pass, right?
You got a high-end quarter. As much as you may not like this Colorado team, you got a high-end quarterback and you got a high-end receiver on that team.
No,
it's
baby.
Usually not a good recipe for a bad pass defense on the other side.
They're going to have to pressure the passer because they can't defend, but they're going to have to rush the passer and
100%.
Move him out of that pocket and try to get to him a couple times.
Let's go to this game. We actually were not going to talk about this one, but because of injury news, we are going to bring up Boston College in Western Kentucky. Thomas Castellanos is out.
He's out.
He's out. So, Chris, you took a bunch of action this morning because this stood still on 13 the whole week and now down to 8 with a total of 49 on this one at Chestnut Hill.
Yeah, we're down to 8, and we got bet quite a bit. We did get the alert. In the last move, I did move a full point. But we did get we got business here, So I've sung the praises of Bill O'Brien. I think he's made Castellanos from an okay quarterback into like a decent quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't go too crazy on it, but he was pretty productive. But I will have to see what I don't know anything about the backup. So
one does.
Yeah, okay. We'll have to see if O'Brien can work some magic in 24 hours, or who knows how long he knew Castellanos was going to be out. But otherwise, I would think that BC was a pretty superior team. But boy, I'll sure need him tomorrow because I got a lot of money on the dog.
Real quick, Grayson James is the starter. He played at FIU in the past, put up reasonable numbers when he was pressed in the service a few games. But that's your starter tomorrow for Boston College.
Okay,
we're going to need BC, and we're going to need the over. We're going to need favorite and over, which is not always
that's a very rare case.
A common need for the house. So this total's down to 49 from 55.5.
Let's go to the Big Ten. Bettor's darling Purdue. I'm not sure why they've been the Bettor's
week in and week out
so far.
Yeah, they really have.
But they bet like crazy last week. Don't cover anything against Oregon State. 2 weeks ago, bet all the way down to a touchdown after being as high as a 13.5-point underdog against Notre Dame. Lose by 59. Not been a good start for Purdue against FBS competition. They think on Nebraska. Chris, we saw Nebraska last Friday night. Tight game the whole way through. Yep. They lose in overtime at home as almost a double-digit favorite to Illinois, who I think we underrated coming into the year, to say the very least.
Yes, sir.
This one's a toggler again. 10.5, 10, 10.5, 11, 10.5 right now in the Huskers on the road against Purdue. Total 48. Not much moving on that.
Not much movement, but good two-way action, really. Yeah, it's not a big toggler like Vinny would say, but we do have the two-way action. And there's sharp money both ways. I have respected guys on both sides. But, Jeff, I'm kind of with you. What has suddenly become the point spread? I don't want to call them the point spread darlings, but the darlings of the sharp crowd. And, one of these days Purdue's going to cover, and they're going to say, see, I've been telling you. I've been telling you. I don't know if this is it. I like the other side, though.
A little surprised about what happened with Nebraska last week. I mean, listen, with all full marks to Illinois, but Nebraska, when they needed a key stop, they just couldn't get it. So I thought their defense was going to be the difference last week. It was not the case. And then, of course, in overtime, they actually went backwards.
Yeah, what was that? We were 4th and 29.
4 straight down.
Overtime's pretty good, right?
So, so this is an interesting sequence with the money shown for Purdue in the last few games.
Wasn't it 3rd and 42?
Yeah, it was something ridiculous.
Yeah,
like
I think whatever happened, I can't remember where exactly I was.
Penalties and
I look back, it was
Penalties.
and then
42?
a sack.
What the hell happened?
Massive sack.
Yeah, it was a lot of bad stuff
snap,
on that drive. Still not as good as Mizzou's 2nd and 59 from 2 weeks ago, but still pretty good.
Got to have the obligatory
Wait a second,
alma mater
actually-
reference.
Well, 2nd and 59 is outrageous, Vinny.
When Louisiana Tech had 3rd and 97, I needed Louisiana Tech that day. I just want you to know that.
Oh, that's one of the great plays in college football history when that happened.
Yeah, I needed them
97.
that day.
All right, let's go.
By the way, kids, Google that. That's the true story.
Oh, no, it's one of the great plays in college football history if you've never seen it before.
No.
Ole Miss, let's go to the Deep South. Ole Miss is hosting Kentucky. Rebs have just destroyed everything in their path so far this year. I don't even want to say this is a this is a step up in competition from the non-con, but
It is.
Kentucky is disappointing at 2-2. They've really throttled the mediocre teams on their schedule. That Georgia game, I'm still mad that Mark Stoops punted on that 4th and 6. And they got throttled by South Carolina. 15 on this one with the Rebs on the Grove with a total of 52, Chris.
Well, I made the number 18, and I think we opened 17 and a half. So I had no beef with that because I think they are going to have their hands full with Kentucky. I know that, like you said, Jeff, they've been throttling everybody. That's probably a good way to describe it. But I think they got their hands full here. It is a step up for them, and Kentucky's defense has definitely shown some signs of being able to stop. I mean, what did they give up to Georgia? What was it?
They were
13
close.
or something like that?
13 points,
Yeah.
262, less than 5 yards of play.
Yeah.
Pretty good outing, all things considered, for Kentucky.
Yeah.
And by the way, I apologize. I have this cold I just can't shake. But I can see where the sharp guys did play the dog here. Although, don't worry, the public's still heavily on the favorite. So you have some support in that direction if that's what you're looking for.
Correlation too, right, to the under as well, right? I mean, you got a 2.5 touchdown favorite dog that's drawing betting attention, and if you like the dog to cover, then you're certainly going to probably lean towards the under. But I've moved Mississippi up here to number 5 in my my power ratings. I mean, they're now again, we'll see a little bit more about them, but we know they can score points. So you can score points in this day and age. I know you have to defend to win titles, but if you're able to score points, you're certainly going to be in contention. And we saw what happened if South Carolina could score that many points on Kentucky. This is a much more higher octane offense here.
Jackson Dart, another Heisman competitor. Cam Ward's not favored at a book. It's Jackson Dart right now for the Heisman. I wouldn't bet either of those guys right now at those short numbers. We know how everything changes through the years in these award markets. I would not be shocked if Kentucky stays in this game. I would not be shocked if Ole Miss wins this game 37-6. I think we got a very wide range of outcome for this one.
Yeah, I know they didn't play well against defensively. I'm talking about against South Carolina. I still see some signs on this defense, and I think Mississippi's going to face, a good, legit defense. I think South Carolina might argue with that. Really for the first time this season.
Is this Kentucky's first road game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
They've been home the whole season.
Yes, first road game.
Yeah.
Correct, Vinny.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the Big 12. Two teams that, quite frankly, if you could have thrown last week into the garbage, they would have done it already. Oklahoma State at home really just no-showed on offense against Utah, and quite frankly, their defense got completely out-toughed by Utah's offense as well. They only lost by 3, but that final score is total.
Without rising,
right. Yes, with mini Zach Wilson, his younger brother Isaac, beating them yet last week. That 3-point margin was total nonsense. It was not indicative to what that game was. And Kansas State, I'm going to be honest with you guys. When K-State was up 6-0, I turned out of that game and be like, all right, well, Kansas State's going to handle their business in Provo. No big deal. Go back to it, and it's 31-9, and I'm like, what the hell happened here? As K-State just got crushed in a game that statistically was even, but turnovers, big special teams plays.
One of the great punt returns of all time.
Yeah, incredible from BYU. K-State back at home. Manhattan for this one, 5 and 57.5 K-State favorite, Chris.
Well, yeah, two disappointing teams. I really thought K-State was, easily the second best team in the Big 12 and maybe the best. But now who knows what's going to happen now with Utah with Rising? Like I said, we can just cut and paste that. Yeah. Questionable, I think, every week. I do like the dog here, though. I mean, I just think this number's a shade too high. So I like Oak State in this game. I think, listen, the Mullet, not always my favorite guy, but I think he is a hell of a coach. And I think he's going to have this team ready. I think they're going to respond from last week. And, I do like them in this spot. I think it's a good spot for them. Getting points here.
Do give a shout out to the Kansas State University economics class that I addressed earlier this week. Yes, Dan Kuster.
Was that this week?
That was on Monday.
Oh, okay.
Guys,
great time.
Guys, a yearly occurrence that everyone looks forward to.
I have to tell you. They keep asking me back. I mean, but
they told Vinny Manhattan. He says, "Oh yeah,"
and I was like, "Sure, I'll be
right
there
across the bridge."
It's easy. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Yeah. I said Manhattan, and next thing I know, I'm looking around. I'm looking for Ferraro's Bakery, and I'm like, wait,
what happened to the skyscrapers?
Where are they?
Great group, though. A lot of fun.
I will say this. I'm looking for reasons about Kansas State. I just can't get there.
Really?
I just can't get there. I have my concerns with them going to the year was Avery Johnson. Avery Johnson, when he's been at his best this year, has looked awesome. But then you're going to have games, just the growing pains of a young quarterback. Games like last week where making mental errors, bad turnovers. You saw the mental error at the end of the first half against Arizona. It didn't hurt him, but it just you're going to have a bunch of that with this Kansas State team, at least for now. And again, if Rising ever gets back for Utah, a few weeks from Utah being laying a price to win the Big 12 at this rate.
If Rising's healthy.
100%. If Cam Rising.
We're in 2 years of this stuff, though, with Rising.
It's ridiculous at this point.
Is he our age?
Might be.
I saw him in line at the Social Security office.
Let's go to Lubbock next. Texas Tech. You know what? You get Taj Brooks back, you look like a totally different team. This is not the same team that went to the Palouse and got clobbered by Wazoo. Last week, I thought that was a more even game than the final score indicated against Arizona State. They win 30-22. Thought if you had Arizona State, you might have deserved better than you got. They take on Cincinnati this weekend, Texas Tech does, and quite frankly, the Bearcats looked pretty darn impressive against an overmatched Houston team last week, 34-0, and it wasn't even that competitive. Chris, Tech is 3 at home with a total of 60, high total in Western Texas.
Well, we opened at 4, obviously down to 3, so we got some money on the dog. But again, another one of those games that isn't so bad for us. We still have some favorite money. So, sure, if they kick off right now, we do need a favorite, but we're not too bad there. And we've just another one of those games we've written a ton of business on, and right now leans a little heavily towards the dog, but not too bad. And I don't have a strong opinion in this game at all. I did make it a shade higher. I made it 5, but that's cutting it pretty close again.
Yeah, I mean, for the low was 2.5, right, Chris? At one point,
I'm not sure.
And then now 3. So and some over money. I'm not real surprised that the over is getting played here, and I think we'll continue to see over money.
Let's keep it in the Big 12. 2 more disappointments here. We talked about the Disappointment Bowl last week. Kansas ended up losing that, blowing a double-digit lead in the last 6 minutes in Morgantown. They're 1-3. They take on TCU, who, boy, talk about things falling apart. Yeah. They were 2-0. They blow a 3-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter to Central Florida 2 weeks ago. And then last week, SMU had struggled on offense, put 66 on them a week ago in Dallas. This game's being played at Arrowhead, by the way. All Kansas home games being played at Arrowhead. And the one thing, if Kansas was good, I would say, all right, stick $50K in there. It's going to sound great. The fact that Kansas is 1-3, it's probably going to be like $25K, and it's going to feel like a Morgan there at Arrowhead Stadium.
Big difference, right?
Good point.
Again, I made this game pick 'em, and it's one of those. Hard to make anybody the favorite here. It's just 2 teams that just did not look good. We opened 1.5. We're up to 2, but even in my notes, I wrote meh. We have hardly any play. Enough to move me a half point on a dead number, and that's about all I got.
Yeah, it's kind of curious. I think it's a midday game, so we may see more as we get closer to kickoff tomorrow. Probably more in multi tie-in action, I think, on this one, Chris.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much straight bet action.
I'm with Chris. Meh is the perfect word for
How do you
for
spell
this
that?
match.
MEH.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
MEH.
Still in the Big 12. These are the newbies in the Big 12 coming up next. In Salt Lake, old Pac-12 matchup. Arizona goes to Utah. Utes are 9, total 47.5. This is down 3 points from the opener, 12.5. Look, if you know if Cam Rising is playing, you might as well just tell us at this rate. We have no idea. I will say this. If it's Isaac Wilson again,
He played the game of his life last week.
he was
though,
great.
Let's
Well,
face
and
it,
also their
right?
run game really they just outmuscled Oklahoma
They
State.
controlled the
whole way
line of
through.
scrimmage. Yeah.
Look, Arizona, they got outmuscled by Kansas State. I don't have a lot of confidence in Arizona covering a number, even if it isn't Rising here in this game.
Oh, we talked about coaching. I mean, Whittingham's just been there for a long time at Utah and done a terrific job. Really recruit some big, tough kids. Utah always seems tough, and I give them credit for that. But when Sammy P texted me earlier in the year, Rising questionable. I said, Sammy, just cut that and paste it. You could probably use it all year. And kind of made a joke out of it, but meanwhile, it's been true. So I don't know if Rising's playing or not. If he's playing, make the number a lot higher. If he's not playing, then we're probably like in the zone where we should be right now.
To Chrissy's point, if he's playing, this number goes back up.
Yep.
This is a play against, or with the the thought that he's not, and also knowing, okay, if he's going to be in, then I'll get off it and just go the other way.
All right, I want to touch this next game quickly. We don't know who's playing quarterback for Texas, but quite frankly, who cares at this rate of which guy is in there? He's going to be power rated pretty darn high.
Which number one draft choice is it?
Exactly. Yeah. And for Mississippi State, I mean, look, they really weren't close to covering at home against Florida last week, even on the good numbers. Chris, I saw a projection. Parker Fleming, who does a great job with analytic projections. He gave Mississippi State less than 0.5% to win the game. Obviously, 38.5 point underdog. The projected score was 49-6 in his projections.
Was that two field goals or a missed extra point?
I would go with 2 field goals, Vinny, but 38.5 on Texas. This is the market high. I mean, look, this is just as bad of a miss. This is like Vanderbilt against Alabama back in the day, may even be worse than that at this rate.
Well, I opened 39. I'm down at 38.5, so it's enough to move me 0.5 point on a dead number. But, we did the scoring props, too. And I haven't tweeted them out yet, but I have to tweet that out. I think I have Mississippi State 1,000-1 to be the highest scoring, which is as high as I go. But last week, 500-1, baby, James Madison. So I don't know.
Yes, it is. Here it is.
Is
I have it.
1,000-1?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
I mean, I always that's the way to play them. Take your shots on the long shots, and I wouldn't bet my whole bankroll on it, but $10 or whatever you want to go for, and hope you catch lightning in a bottle, which fortunately nobody did last week. But I don't think it's going to be Mississippi State this week. I would high. They should be a lot more than 1,000-1, really.
I think Shapen is out for.
Shapen season is over.
He's over.
It's over. Yeah.
So
Yeah, he's done for the year, injured in that game against Florida. Yeah, it's just
doesn't help.
It's just going to be a long year in Starkville. The untimely passing of Mike Leach really set things back there in Starkville. It's going to be a long road for Jeff Lebby to get that program back on the right track. All right, let's go to Baylor next. Brigham Young, unexpected, undefeated, wins a win in Dallas against SMU, a win in stunning fashion that we mentioned earlier against Kansas State last week, and now to go to Baylor, who was stunned in their own right last week by Colorado with the Hail Mary and then losing in overtime. Baylor's a 3.5 point favorite. That total is sitting at 47.5, which I'm a little surprised the total's gone up, Chris, from where you opened it at.
Well, this is another game. I thought the opening number was good. Baylor 2.5. But the public is on BYU, but the wise guys are on Baylor.
Not surprised.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense to me. By the way, we got a Jewish quarterback for BYU.
Yep.
Gil and I exchanged some messages. BY Jew, as they have a T-shirt.
T-shirt.
That's pretty funny, I thought. Our old friend, the tribesman, Gil Alexander. But anyway, I just think right now I can see where the public would be enamored with BYU, though. They had an impressive game last week, score-wise, although if you dig into the box score, probably not as impressive as the final actual score would indicate. But, a nice team, a team that I definitely had vastly underrated beforehand. And, of course, Paul Stone told me that I had made a mistake in that regard, and I was smart enough to kind of listen to Paul. I don't mind doing that. But I'm not sure who the right side is, but I think this is going to be a real good betting game for us, and it is already.
Toggler,
Yeah.
laying 3, taking 3.5. There it is.
Yeah, I'm not surprised what you said, Chris. This feels like a classic square versus sharp game with the public on BYU and the Sharpies on Baylor. Even now, again, not as pretty of a number, laying 3.5 with the Bears. All right, let's keep it in Texas. Iowa State. Iowa State's kind of just going under the radar. They haven't played a conference game yet. Obviously, they had a huge comeback win against Iowa earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. Now they go to the Cougars of Houston, who I think it's safe to say they're the worst team in the Big 12 based off what we've seen so far. Big number, up to 16 when the guys opened 13. So this thing is blasted through 2 key numbers so far.
Yeah, 13 up to 16. And Jeff, it's been all Iowa State. I mean, you got sharp guys, you got public, you got everybody, and I can see why. I mean, I think you're probably right about Houston being the worst team in the Big 12. I'm not sure it's going to last a long time. I think they got Willie Fritz, a coach, in place, and, another not my favorite guy, Tillman Fertitta's a big, writes a lot of checks for that athletic program, and I'm sure he'll get some NIL money rounded up, and they'll support some players going in there. But I think right now when teams have a chance to beat up on Houston, they're going to do it. And I know this game's moved through some key numbers, as you said. I still like Iowa State in this one. I think they really crushed this, totally inept Houston team.
This game's going to go to 17. That's going to be the only take.
I agree with you, Vinny. I agree with you 100%. Look, Iowa State. Again, we're looking for that now with what happened last weekend. We're looking for that second team in the Big 12 now. I think we're even if Rising has one of those years where he only shows up half the time, I think we're all in the camp that Utah is still probably going to be making it to Arlington. We're still looking for that second team. I don't know if there's a better choice at the moment than Iowa State. Central Florida may have something to say about it as well.
Maybe.
But Iowa State may have a team that's flown under the radar enough. That might be the surprise team down in Arlington. All right, let's go to the battle of who the heck is playing quarterback this week for these two teams. Oklahoma goes to Auburn. Last weekend, I thought Oklahoma's defense did fine against Tennessee's big play offense. I don't think they did great. I don't think they did terrible. But as I've said all year with them, I think they have a massive problem at the quarterback position. And Jackson Arnold got benched midway through that game. And in comes Michael Hawkins Jr., who looked better than Arnold, but I don't think looked particularly great. And Hawkins Jr. will get the start here on the road at Auburn, who is going back to Peyton Thorne at quarterback this week after losing to Arkansas. Chris, the market loves Auburn in this game, from a 3-point underdog to a 1-point favorite in this game. Oh, boy.
Well, numbers are supposed to be the great equalizer, but how do you get excited about either one of these teams? You're putting guys are putting some big money on this side, mostly on Auburn, but we also have plenty of public money on Oklahoma. And I think that's more, Oklahoma, shouldn't they beat Auburn, a bad Auburn team? Not necessarily. But I think this one is, another one, pros versus Joes. But right now the pros have heavily outweighed them. And I just can't see being too excited about either one of these two squads.
We're saying one-way action with the change of favorites here. Probably going to continue. On the road.
So Oklahoma's Oklahoma's a bye next week, but then it's
Texas.
Red River.
Yeah.
The week after that, I don't think that's going to go well for Oklahoma this year. Just throwing that out there. But I just go back to what I said at the beginning of the year. They let Dylan Gabriel leaves, where Dylan Gabriel is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in college football, even though he hasn't looked quite like that so far for Oregon this year. And you replaced him with a guy who I never thought was an SEC caliber quarterback. And now we're not even in October, and you benched him already. Mm-hmm. That's a bad place to be if you're Oklahoma, especially in a league now where, this is their easiest conference game left.
Yeah.
Texas, South Carolina, at Ole Miss, at Missouri, Alabama, at LSU. Good luck.
Wow.
Good luck.
There might be one win in there.
Maybe. They'll beat Maine. I'll give you that. They get Maine in non-con.
That's non-conference. I'm pretty sure they're not in the SEC.
You tell me the Black Bears are not in the SEC,
no.
Chris?
Wait, they're not now? When did that happen?
Hey, they might be in the Mountain
Where'd
West
they
by
leave?
the time
you never know.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Mountain West, there's been a lot of news about UNLV this week, huh?
Really?
What happened?
Yeah.
Matthew Sluka leaves the program over an NIL dispute. He's not the only one. Another fourth-string running back left, Michael Allen. He left as well. Going to be Robin. Going to be the new quarterback from Campbell coming in for UNLV this week. Malik Hodge Robinson will likely get the start, or Williams, I should say. Williams, excuse me. You're right, Vinny. Williams. But here you go, down to 2 after the move of Sluka not being on the team and Williams now starting. Total of 50, and this really a game that could set the course for a college football playoff berth in the Mountain West.
Jeff, I've been talking from the beginning of the year. Fresno State was the team that I kind of liked to sneak into the playoffs. I think they're as good as Boise. I had trouble going to Liberty. I thought Memphis had a little shot, and there's a couple others out there.
Memphis did themselves favors last week.
They're probably out of it now. But I think Fresno was a team that I liked in the beginning. And I got to like them here, too. And I like them regardless of what happened for the UNLV squad. So I really thought Fresno should be about a 1-point favorite in this game, even with all the guns going for UNLV. So I can't help but like them right here. Like I said, I talk about certain teams. They just seem like they have tough kids. I mentioned Utah. There's a lot of other schools that I haven't mentioned this week, but Fresno's one of those schools. They just seem to have a lot of tough kids. They come from that Central Valley of California, and a lot of those kids grow up tough, man. They show it on the football field too. So I think they won't be intimidated, but they'll probably have a pretty good crowd here at Allegiant on Saturday. But I like Fresno in this game.
This is Coach Odom's toughest toughest coaching situation, I think, since he's been here. It's because it's not just preparing for this game. It's how do you prepare and how do you get the team's psyche back, right? I mean, it's obviously a huge distraction. Along with, are they going to go to the Pac-12?
Oh, they're staying.
Or they're not. Now they're not.
No.
So they were not. Then they were considering it, or Pac-12 gave them. Then they gave them an invite. And now they're not. And they've turned it down. So there's a lot of distractions right now for UNLV, and you're preparing for a game. It's difficult enough, especially a conference game, and now you've got to overcome these distractions that we're talking about.
This is in the middle of a very difficult stretch for UNLV.
Yeah.
Of course, they already passed the Kansas test. They won that game as nearly a double-digit underdog.
They were dogs at Houston. They were to start the season.
Boy, that was the wrong favorite.
But still, you were going into the season, right? And we didn't.
Money showed on Houston in that.
Yeah, that's just
so crazy in retrospect. Fresno this week. I honestly, if Syracuse didn't blow that game against Stanford last week, we'd be talking about how big of a game that is coming up next Friday at Allegiant, and then you get Oregon State and Boise State mixed in there. It's a tough stretch for UNLV over the next few weeks. All right, let's not spend too much time on this one. Pac-12 matchup that's now a Big Ten matchup. Oregon, huge favorites in LA against UCLA. Chris, 24.5. This is down from the high of 25.5, but it is up from your opener, which was 24.
not much action on this game. We got a little bit of two-way, but not not one to brag about, Vinny, even though we had a little bit. But you're not going to get rich off the juice money in this game. Just small action. We tried to move with the market a little bit, but I got to say, I thought UCLA looked okay last week.
I agree with you.
Not as horrible as we expected, or like they looked against Indiana. Looked all right, but there's still a long way to go for this team to get back to where they were just a few short seasons ago.
Maybe Oregon's hitting their stride.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing. I saw the 24 earlier in the week, and I'm like, wow, I actually think that might not be too bad to lay with Oregon.
Yeah.
Since we know Oregon is going to keep playing when they're up big as well, as we saw a few weeks ago in the Civil War against Oregon State. Now let's go to another rivalry game, and I'm a little surprised by what's happened here in Arlington this week. A&M and Arkansas. A&M home game technically here in this one. Chris, he opened 4. Initial action was on the Hogs, down to 3.5. But here we go. Up the ladder we go yesterday to 6 on A&M. That total's gone down 1.5 from 52.5 to 51.
It's been all A&M. Well, the first little pop was on the dog. I made a number 4.5. So when they did hit me on the dog, I thought, well, that makes sense. It was a point off at that point. But since then, it's been all favorite. And, I'm not sure. I don't have a strong opinion on this game, like I said, opening at 4.5. But, I think Arkansas is one of those teams that they might be a little bit better than I expected. Although I also said A&M, because of Mike Elko, I think he's a very, very good coach. And I think that they will improve as the year goes on. So have we not quite seen the best of A&M yet? Probably not. But, I don't know if we're going to see him this week or not. So it's number is getting up there.
Yeah, we're going to need Arkansas here. I think A&M's responded to that opening game defeat at home to Notre Dame. So credit them for that. And it's I think a testament to Chris's point about coaching. So, this right now it's one way. I'm not so sure if I think we're going to need Arkansas for a pretty decent amount here.
Arkansas already is the better record than I expected them to be.
Yeah.
They're 3-1. They quite frankly should be 4-0. They should have won that game in Stillwater in week 2. They totally choked that game away. Though, A&M, we talked about it, talent-wise, they've been as high as anyone in the country. Just a matter of getting the right camaraderie and the right coach in there, and we're going to keep learning. Even though I will tell you, Bowling Green, near Giant Killers twice this year. Really pushed Penn State to the wire, and that was a 6-point game last week in College Station. I think that kind of slid under the radar last week, that A&M struggled as much as they did last week against Bowling Green of the MAC. All right, let's go to Notre Dame next. Vinny, you mentioned weather playing roles in travel. Louisville had to bus to South Bend today instead of flying. That's not a horrible bus ride. It's a 4.5-hour ride from Louisville to South Bend, but not as easy as a flight that would be under an hour. But here you go, Notre Dame. This has been a mover all over the week here, guys. You opened 5.5, got as high as 7, and now that 7 is no more. 6.5 on Notre Dame at home with a total of 46. That total has only gone down this week.
Well, you can live off this juice because this is a pretty good two-way action game. I got to tell you, mostly on the favorite, of course. But, we almost expect that every week when Notre Dame plays. So we got some decent money on the dog. And, this is a pretty live dog. Louisville's, they're right up there in the ACC. They still got a chance to make it to their championship game. So this is a terrific action game here, mostly on the favorite, as I said. What did I make this game? I don't think I had a strong opinion here. But I did make it a little bit higher in favor of Notre Dame. But I think part of that is just my prejudice on which way the number tends to go on Notre Dame. Because I think Louisville will make a pretty good showing in the spot.
The good thing is that we know where the buyback threshold is, right? So earlier in the week when it got to 7. So if it gets back there, you just don't need the game to fall Notre Dame 7. So, but it'll be a good betting game.
Middle of the day game as well there in South Bend for this one with Louisville and Notre Dame. All right, let's go to State College next. Penn State welcomes Illinois. Illinois, very surprising undefeated so far. Penn State also undefeated, as we know. 18 right now on this game. It's been basically a one-way. Well, it was a little one-way earlier actually on a dog, but now back up to 18. Total 48-47.5. Not much movement here.
Not much movement, but good action. It's a good action game. Now, the only caveat I would tell you, because I think the power ratings come to right about where this number is, but James Franklin likes to cover numbers. Now, I don't care what you say. I mean, you have to take that into account in your handicapping. No matter how good the team is that he's facing, if he has a chance to cover at the end, he's going to try to do it. So it's not really a numbers play, but gun to my head, I'd probably take Penn State, just knowing Franklin's tendency to try to get that final touchdown to cover a number. And
another reason, to Chrissy's point, I think a physical game last week at Lincoln or for Illinois.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Even though overtime didn't last long.
But still, it was a good hitting game. Nebraska games tend to be pretty good hitting games. So,
from Chris Felica, on a note here, Penn State since 2000 in games that they've been favored between 7 and 24 are 17-0-1 against the number.
Ooh.
They've been pretty darn good in this pocket.
I think that'll tell you exactly what I was trying to say earlier. Yeah. We got to get the Bear back on the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
never say no to Chris. He's welcome anytime.
That's right.
Never. Bear, we love you. If you're out there listening, we love you, buddy.
Let's go quickly here on Minnesota and Michigan. Iowa level total on this game from 38 to 34.5 on this one.
Who's Iowa playing?
No.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
Michigan's 11. That's up from a low of 8.5. He did open 10. Look, the blueprint's simple for Michigan. They're not going to put the ball in the air, and they're going to try to bludgeon it to death on the ground. They were able to do it against USC with that last drive to win the game and win outright as a dog at home. Kind of feels like they should be able to do it against Minnesota as well.
Yeah, my numbers came a little higher, 13, and then I'm looking and, geez, Michigan laying 13 against anybody. I think you're just asking for some danger. But Minnesota, they've been disappointing, and talked about P.J. Fleck a little bit last week. His tenure at Minnesota has not gone as well as I certainly thought it was going to go. But, boy, that offense needs a lot of work. But I can't believe this number is up that high, even though mine came a little higher. But sometimes you can't just go by the pure power rating. You have to look at the situation. I think 11 is a pretty high number.
Maybe a little emotional letdown in the first half.
Possibly, yeah.
Right?
Not impossible.
Maybe, right? Maybe a little gopher action in the first half, perhaps.
Yeah, Alex Orji looked better than Warren, but again, not like they did anything through the air. It was all on the ground last week for the Michigan Wolverines. All right, let's go to USC and Wisconsin. Big Ten home debut for USC. This Wisconsin team, Van Dyke's out for the year at the quarterback position. This is just a Wisconsin team that just does not have the horses they have had in the past. 14.5 right now. It is down from the peak of 16 on this one with USC at home. Midday action for this one, 12:30 Eastern, or 12:30 Pacific, I should say.
Well, I think a lot of people watching that USC game that I don't want to say they blew it, but they certainly had a chance to win that game. And the money right now is on Wisconsin, from the sharp players and really even the public is on the dog here. I don't know, boy, Wisconsin, we talked about disappointing teams. They throw Wisconsin right in the mix there.
2 years in a row.
Yeah, another guy who I thought was going to do much better as a coach, and so far it has not come to fruition in Wisconsin. But I think the number's right there. No strong opinion on this one, but surprised the public glomming onto a dog. I know USC was a little ugly last week, but Wisconsin, Vinny, like you said, they've been ugly for 2 years now.
Yeah. I think we'll see SC money here starting tonight. Again, overnight action business is very good here at South Point with the 24-hour book. Leading, Friday night is really the start of Sunday morning. The way, right? I mean, we just because of the fact that it's open all night, and it's not just our visitors, but with a 3-shift town, a lot of locals too. So there'll be I think there'll be some support tonight and into tomorrow for SC.
Nothing for me at the Coliseum. Oh, no, it took us an hour to get to the biggest game of the day tomorrow because it's listed all the way basically.
New Mexico State.
Yeah,
you got it
too. Yeah,
you got it, Vinny.
There it is.
Yeah. You got
the
it.
Enchantment Bowl.
Yeah, there we go. Georgia at Alabama. You just don't see these teams playing a regular season very often, but
love it.
You're going to start seeing this more with no divisions anymore in the Southeastern Conference. Chris, you opened Georgia 1. Been a toddler between 1 and 1.5, so not much there. Total of 50. That actually has gone up here for this mega matchup here for the last Saturday of September.
This should just be such a great game to watch. I mean, I hate when it's what it's all about. Well, this kind of is what it's all about. It really is. I mean, 2 of the top programs of the last decade, great players that on their current squads, and you can see all throughout the NFL. Guys from these 2 schools. I think Alabama should have been the favorite, and I think Vinny and I talked about that last week.
Yeah, we did.
I think we both made the game like 1.5 or 2, Alabama. So we stayed under the market essentially. Although I even see some picks now, but I have a little bit of money on Georgia, so I'm at 1.5 where I should be. But I still like Bama in this game, but. Again, I'm not going to go crazy. I think we're looking at 1 score either way. Is that a touchdown, a field goal? Might be a safety. Both these teams play some pretty good defense. But, great game. I can't wait to see it tomorrow. I'm going to try to go in needing Bama, but if I need Georgia, so be it. That's not the worst thing in the world.
This game is going to be bet and booked like an NFL game.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And rightfully so.
Excuse me, Vinny. I don't mean to cut you off. I told my guys that. I said, if anybody comes in, and they want something big on this game,
take it.
Please don't say no. Go ahead and take it.
Yeah. So, by the way, we did open this game. Now, remember, the games of the year last summer, middle of July, Georgia 4.5.
Yeah.
And so, not a lot of movement on
we didn't
that
have.
game of the
I
year,
never moved that number.
And the reason we made Alabama a slight favorite was the home field. I mean, so. Georgia in my power ratings, I've got them probably about a point higher, I think, on the power rating. But this is one of the better home fields in college football at Tuscaloosa, at least in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the difference.
I'll save my play for this game for tomorrow. That's what I'll do. I'll save it for tomorrow morning. You got to tune in at 8 a.m.
That's a tease. It's called a tease, I think. And
that's
journalism majors.
Good thing we're open 24 hours.
Yeah, the
suspense will be all night.
All I will say is this game is going to come back to one player on the Alabama side, and I think everyone can figure out who it comes back to.
Milroe.
Not too difficult on that. It would be one Mr. Milroe where this game comes back to.
Yeah,
when this is all said and done. I do want to hit one last game before we bring Jimmy on. Michigan State. 23.5-point underdogs at home against Ohio State. Chris, you guys opened 25, so it's been a nice steady stream on the dog in this game in East Lansing.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Jeff, earlier in the show, Michigan State's one of those teams that has played better than we thought. Certainly a lot better than I thought, and a lot of other people, too. They were not very highly regarded. They're still not that highly regarded, but came in with a little bit more juice than we thought they were going to have at this point in the season. I'm not sure they could stay with this Ohio State team. I don't think they can. But money has definitely showed here on the dog, and at some point, and I always I've used this example before. Guys will tell you can't make that number high enough. Really? Would you take 100? Oh, yeah, well, I'd take 100. Okay, so another number somewhere between pick 'em and 100, and I have to find that equilibrium. And I think maybe we found it here.
Ohio State's not started particularly strong against teams yet, right? When you think about it. So maybe, again, another first half look here for the home team. And, they've taken the points here, but everybody gets up in the conference, especially for Ohio State. And Michigan State's better than we had projected last summer.
Yeah, I want to definitely not a look ahead spot for next week because Ohio State will be ready for Iowa at home.
Yeah.
But again, when we're talking Iowa and Ohio State next week, Ohio State gets Oregon the week after that in Autzen. So that's we could be looking ahead potentially.
That could be the second game of the century this season.
It might not even be the best game involving Ohio State this year because they play at Penn State in November. So, hey, look, one good thing about one of the few good things about this conference realignment, we're getting some heavy duty conference games through the year.
I know.
Now because almost
as a purist,
teams,
I don't like it. As a bookmaker, I love it.
I mean, you get Georgia and Texas in a few weeks too.
Oh, man, really?
Yeah.
Other
my
NFL
goodness.
games.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty good. Texas goes Oklahoma, Georgia back to back. That's pretty good.
Woo.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Even though Oklahoma doesn't.
No bye in between?
Nope.
Listen, I hate to throw out your record book kind of thing, but with Texas and Oklahoma, you can kind of do that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's Oklahoma Super Bowl with the way things are going.
Yeah.
That Red River game in Dallas, which, by the way, they are not playing at 11 a.m. local time this year.
Really?
It's 3.5 hours later.
Really? They're letting everybody get drunk.
They've always played that game at 11 a.m. because they were concerned about the alcohol consumption.
No
and they are
kidding.
moving 3.5 hours
Wait a minute.
back.
Yeah.
So let me just think what you just said. Do we really think that nobody was drinking at that early?
No, well, I know, but there are
Come
less
on.
hours in a day in order to do that properly.
No, it's
Vinny.
it's better for the
Or people were still drinking.
better for the
concession.
better for the concessions. I mean, come on.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we get back. Jimmy Vacarro on set, and we shift gears to the National Football League, Week 4. When we get back, Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, 777s, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy. Jeff Parles, Jimmy Vacarro's on set to my left. Chris Andrews is here. Vinny Magliulo is here. Good afternoon, Jimmy.
Well, you know what? It's been okay. Obviously, Mr. Andrews over there, seeing the increase in play, especially with the college, it's incredible. But, when you watch these teams, the NFL is what it is. You're not going to get any like, whoa, that really happened in college because of the way things have been going on. Now, the UNLV kid wanted $100,000 and he played a couple games. So it's hard to beat the college if you were betting because it could change immediately. It could change like in one day. That like used to be like your whole backfield was there. Then this one went there, this one went there. And the UNLV kid, what he won, $100,000 and they were winning. I mean, they were doing good. So things are quite different than they once were, Mr. Andrews.
Once were, like they were a year ago, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy all the way around. Of course, Jimmy referring to Matthew Saluka, the quarterback who transferred in from New Hampshire and ends up leaving after 3 games. Ends up leaving after 3 games because of an NIL dispute, for lack of better terms.
I have a feeling there's 2 sides to that story.
I agree with you, Chris. I think there's a lot more we don't know that's still going on.
You know, these two were here when part of this big change in college is like, how can you say it? You know, my brother, when he was, when Ed O'Bannon, that was one who really started it. Ed O'Bannon was watching television one day. This is my story telling me. And he said he was watching television with his kids. And all of a sudden, his kids jumped up and said, "Dad, that looks just like you." He had a blue UCLA jersey, and he was playing. And then somehow, whether it was like real quick or maybe a year or two, we got back to my brother, where Sonny said, you guys are the draw. You guys are the ones that fills these 100,000 seat stadiums, but you get 0. So, that has changed. And, I went to one hearing with my brother, him and his wife, Pam, and it was about, they were talking about Texas, and the lady, the assistant AD or whatever her name was, said, it wasn't a good year for us. And whoever was like heading the argument here just simply said, well, what'd you guys do last? He said, he says, it wasn't bad. But we only made $9 million just on the football. He said, there's other 5 sports like we grab the money. Do we get money for also? So things are different.
Oh, yes.
Well, Sonny's always stood up for the players. I mean, I've known Sonny. I'm 68 years old. I knew him before I knew Jimmy, so I've known him close to 60 years, and he's always been for the players. And Jimmy and I have talked about this, and I've talked to Sonny about it too. NCAA has hated Sonny, and a lot. I mean, and the NCAA has finally been proven to be nothing but a joke. They have a good basketball tournament. That's about it. That's all they do. They've been screwing players, and even the Supreme Court laughed them out of court for how can you think that this is right, what you're doing? But I always said, Jimmy, and you and I have talked about this, if the NCAA had one guy that Sonny had screwed, I mean, I'm talking about a player, over all these years, they'd have paraded that guy up and down Pennsylvania Avenue in D.C. and made him their icon. They can't find that guy because he doesn't exist. Sonny has always stood up for the players, always.
And you know what, obviously, with my brother, what people don't understand what you two do, because you were around and you were actually a ball boy for what started the All-American Classic at the Civic Arena. It's only been 63 years ago.
Something like that.
But what he was always on the kids' sides, even way back when. He was always helping them, whether they were going to get in the Round Ball Classic or they weren't. But that's my brother. And I know people are going to say, oh, yeah, Jimmy, we know that he got a lot of money. He got 0 when he helped these kids. Because no one was looking to pay him, but that's what happened, Vincenzo.
From his heart, he was right. He was right. I mean, listen, he said it the way it was. College sports is a business, and he was not only at the forefront of it. He was the foundation of it. He made people realize it. So, now even with that, when you look at, you look at how it is accelerated in the last couple of years with NIL, the transfer and everything like that. And while we're talking about basketball, now obviously football rosters are much larger than basketball rosters, but don't forget, we're 353 Division I schools.
Yeah,
I've started to look. You should see the transfers come in basketball coming up already.
I'm letting you and Richie Bachelor follow that.
Richie and I were talking about it the other day.
Well,
it's enormous.
You always had if you hung around Sonny, which I did obviously for a lot of years, you could see that there was something that might happen in a positive manner.
Sure.
But as you two know, you're too young. I'm just joking with you. But Sonny's thing, took years to get to the people who could do something about it. Didn't happen overnight. I would say from when he first talked to Eddie O'Bannon way back when, O'Bannon worked in town for all these years at the Finley or whatever, the car
Finley,
lot or whatever.
Toyota.
Just a nice kid. I met with them.
I met his parents.
Yeah.
Nice people. I will want to say this. Between you and Sonny, you're two of the most generous human beings I've ever met in my life. And I'm dead serious. I know you're getting embarrassed, but that's too bad. It's the truth. But I will say this, and I've said this to Sonny.
Go ahead.
Sonny's world famous.
Yeah.
But in Nevada, in Las Vegas, he's Jimmy Vaccaro's brother.
Here's that $5 I owe you.
5. There was 2 more zeros on that 5. What are you talking about?
Keep going.
Yeah,
keep going.
digging, buddy boy.
Let's get clear, because obviously with my brother and a lot of my friends, with you and Zach and Archie and whatever, everybody way back when, guys, we loved basketball more than we loved football. I mean, in that area, for that 3-state area there, I mean, if you go back and just like sit and say, one day we're going to bring in the book that has all the players who played in the Round Ball Classic, you would just shake your head. Now, in a lot of those cases, Sonny made sure that they got here. Sonny made sure that they were taken care of, and whatever. And one more before I let you guys go is like DeMatt the Catholic, Morgan Wooten. You know, he was the big coach in the country with the young kids, and he had DeMatt the high school. They won like 100 games in a row, whatever. But we're in the tunnel. We're leading the teams out to be introduced. He knows, guys. He might have been ball.
I was a ball boy then.
So here's what happened. They're in the tunnel, and like they were going to introduce this guy, that guy, that guy. Well, they did the Pennsylvania team. Then all of a sudden, here comes the United States team. And all of a sudden, I see my brother going, "What do you mean? What are you talking about? Morgan Wooten wanted $100, or he wasn't going to let the kids go on the court." So I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Sonny, I'm telling you, I don't get my 100, nobody goes on the court." Well, Sonny that day had 0 money. I had less than that. But we got about 4 or 5. Tom Gallo and the rest of those
Michael
guys.
Jack.
We scooped up.
Big Nick.
100. Yeah, Jack and whatever. Yeah. We gave him 100. That's the only time that I had to go broke. Didn't have a bet. I think I had $15, $20 on me. That was it. So, all right, guys, it was a great time.
That's a true story too. Yeah, he wouldn't let the team out on the court.
Incredible.
So got $100.
$100. Wow.
Only team to beat.
Well, you didn't know this. You're not allowed out of the chair if you can't.
Well,
we got to give you 100. You got to give the 100 out.
I could do it in Venmo. That's okay.
Who?
Exactly. There we go.
That was Venmo, right?
Man. What?
Venmo.
No,
Vin.
Just Venmo.
Yeah.
But I tell my wife, I get Venmo'd every morning. With my wife.
You talk about basketball. Well, here was like a typical week, and I'm dead serious. Tuesday night, high school basketball.
Yeah.
Friday night, high school basketball. Saturday, Pitt at the Fieldhouse.
Oh,
Sunday, Duquesne at the Civic Arena.
Yeah.
That was our typical week.
I know.
We saw so much. We were basketball people then. That's and Sonny was a big part of that.
Pretty amazing. You don't think of from just outside of that area of the country. You don't think Pittsburgh, massive basketball hub, but there you go.
It's not anymore, unfortunately. It's not, but it definitely was back in the day.
Because the Garden and the Palestra overshadowed.
Oh, I know.
That was the first.
Both Gardens.
Sonny put the first All-Star game to get. Now there were All-Star teams, but he put the first interstate All-Star tournament event together, and that was a tremendous event.
One thing that I wish I would have taken a picture of, because the picture would have been a lot of money for me. There was a kid, he was practicing his long balls at the thing, whatever, and I was like getting, if it'd go over there, I'd go get it, whatever. It was only Kelvin Murphy. Kelvin Murphy was smaller than me and was dunking the ball in front of all these people, and they were going crazy. Then we flew, much as I hate to fly, the next morning, me, Sonny, and Kelvin, we flew to Harrisburg because there was a game, it's like a local game, an all-star game. And the guy knew Sonny, said, "Sonny, could you ever bring somebody out there? It'd be great for us." Sonny always promoted the college kids, to always promote them. So we go, and I think it was Harrisburg. Anyway, it was the middle of the state in Pennsylvania. He played 2 games. This I'll never forget. One game he had a lousy 57, and the other game, boy, they really clamped him down. He had 53.
Oh, man.
I'll never forget. He was shorter than me, but you had fun being the ball boy. Tell him about with you out there.
Oh, I had a couple of them, but Sonny, if you know Sonny, is so much like Jimmy. He just, Chrissy, I need you to go pick up Quinn Buckner at the airport. Okay, all right. I'm driving some jalop, I don't know what. Then I was Adrian Dantley's valet for the weekend. That was pretty cool. I was Campy Russell. I don't know if you know him, but Campy Russell had a good career with Michigan, a terrific player. That played for about 10 years in the NBA. Anyway, he's been the Cleveland Cavaliers announcer. I mean, he's older than me. Okay. So for all these years, he's been the Cavaliers announcer. But I was taking care of Campy. When he left his jersey there. United States All-Stars, number 32. Boy. And I used to go and wear that, and they'd say, "Oh, man, this kid's good." That's
great.
I'm not very good, guys. But I do have one picture, and I've moved so many times. I've always had big hands. and there's a picture of me in campy shirt, and I'm palming 2 basketballs. And I'm sure if somebody saw, oh, this kid, are we recruiting this kid? How much money do we got to get?
I think I have that Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, but tell
pretty
him what-
funny when you.
tell him
If you
this
ever
one,
seen
too.
me play, believe me, it's pretty funny.
like
It's
this
awesome.
one. There was a time, him and me, when my brother would, now these kids were graduating and the pros were coming around signing them. Well, every time these kids signed something, they wanted a new car because they never had a nice car. They never had a car, a lot of them. And so who would drive the car to give it to them? I drove in one of those big Chevys. I drove one of those Pontiacs, whatever, from Pittsburgh, from Trafford, Pennsylvania, usually to Norfolk. Well, we waited till they got, or in the Civic Arena in Pittsburgh. Me and Chris, I got a car. I can't even tell you how long ago it was. I can't think of his name. Anyway, he
Tom Payne.
gave me his keys to drive like 300 miles. And then when I got there, he wasn't there. So I drove back, and the car ended up with me in the Royal Inn, close 5 miles from here. And then after about 3 months, my brother called me and said, you better get rid of that car, bring it back. So, what are you talking about? He said, they're looking for it. They're looking for it. I had to drive the car down. There was a car lot down at the end, like in Boulder City, or Boulder Highway, whatever it was. I drove it down there, left the keys on the floor, and got a cab back to the Royal Inn where I was a 21 dealer. There you go, kid.
Perfect.
Not
See you
everything
later.
was on the up and up.
Jimmy Vacarro.
See you later, guys.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
Jazzy,
As always, Jimmy.
thanks,
It's
mate.
always an awesome
He's the
time.
best.
He's the greatest. We know that.
Greatest exit in sports. There it is.
Right across the studio and all. All right, let's get some NFL.
What?
This is a
Is
very
NFL this week?
very messy injury league.
Yeah. Oh my
To
gosh.
say the
Yeah.
very
There's
least.
we're in week 4, and it's already adding up.
So let's start with one where there is already a little bit of a messy injury thing, and the line has moved because of it. Let's start in Atlanta with the Saints going to the Falcons. NFC South matchup. Of course, the Saints lose last week to Philadelphia by 3. We were all over that move was a little too aggressive, even though I think we were a little fortunate at the end because the Eagles coaching staff did their best to lose the game. They didn't, thankfully. Atlanta, they were in the game the whole way against Kansas City. Didn't get the benefit of a call that wasn't made, and that was that for the Falcons there. Here you go. Open 1.5, up to 3 now because Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave are questionable. Olave injured himself in practice today. Kamara has been dealing with a leg injury over the last few weeks. So the bettors have taken Atlanta from 1.5 to 3, which would always beg the question when it has to do with the Falcons. What could possibly go wrong for the Atlanta Falcons here when they're getting bet?
Quite a bit, it turns out. But we did see the Saints finally play a real team last week, or a real defense, I should say. And they showed that maybe those first couple of weeks that they were just a paper tiger. And I'm not quite ready to go there yet because if they do get everybody healthy, I think the offense is pretty good. And we had a friend of mine, Chad Millman, who's really done well for himself in this business. Chad was on before the season, and he really did not like the Saints, didn't like the coaching staff, doesn't like Carr as a quarterback. But I will, and Carr is a little long in the tooth for a quarterback. But guys, we've talked about that too. A lot of these kids, and still call them that, when they get into the league, they're not quite developed yet. And we've seen some of these veteran quarterbacks. We've talked about Andy Dalton. Let's go back to last year. Joe Flacco came in from his couch and played some pretty good football for the Cleveland Browns. So some of these guys have enough experience because football is really a much more complicated game than certainly than baseball or even basketball in a lot of senses. There's a lot of moving parts in football, and these guys out there really try to make it tough on a quarterback, and it's hard to figure things out. But maybe Derek Carr has finally figured it out better than he has. I don't think he's ever going to be a great quarterback, but he's played pretty well. And maybe we could say the same about the coach Allen, who I don't think was a terrific coach. So, Chad, I understand what you're saying, but and maybe you're going to wind up being true even this year. But I think when they get healthy again, that'll be the true test to see how good this offense actually is. But the money is on Atlanta. A healthy Saints team. I made this game pick, but they're not healthy. Does it go all the way to 3? Well, it has. I'm not sure if it's going to stay there or not, though. It may move off that.
Along with Kamara and Olave, the offensive line, and there's several teams with multiple injuries along the offensive line, and as we've talked about previously, those were expensive lessons for us to learn. We didn't pay, 20 years ago even, certainly 30 and 40, we did not pay close enough attention to offensive line injuries, particularly clusters. And this game here for the Saints to win this game, especially if Kamara and Olave are not at 100% or don't go, and with the O-line injuries, they're going to have to figure out a way to keep it close. They can't get into I don't think they want to get into a shootout. It's going to be kind of a grind game for them. So, but no real surprise with the injuries that it's gone to the Falcons 3. And you know what? If this was an afternoon game, it might even be higher. We may see it continue to go higher because of the injuries, and we'll have to get it. Especially if those two guys are out, then this game is certainly going to go through to 3.
Yeah, I would expect at least one of them to play. Still probably expect both of them to play, but again, we'll see how it plays out over the next 48 hours. All that hurricane rain is already out of Atlanta as it is anyway, so no problem for the Saints getting there on Saturday afternoon. All right, let's go to Indy next. Steelers 3-0. Go to the Colts. Total's been banged up 2 points in this game from 38.5 to 40.5. Steelers 1.5-point favorites after an open at 2. Russell Wilson listed as questionable, but I think more just a token questionable at this point. This is Justin Fields' team until further notice there in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say this, and I'm wearing my Steelers shirt, but I kind of like the Colts in this game. Yeah, I do. Jeff, it's hard to go 4-0 in this league. And, the Steelers, their defense has been great. No question about it. Their defense has been great. And maybe they could confuse a young, really inexperienced quarterback in Richardson. And I have to think about that. But right now, I just can't think they can keep going to the well as often as they have and just relied on their defense. It's a very, very tight point spread, very low total, which is exactly where it should be. But I have to think that the Colts have enough to win this game at home. And I think it's just going to be so hard for the Steelers to stay up every single week. Well, they got Dallas coming up next. I'm not sure they're going to look ahead all that much in any game, any situation. But I do like the Colts in this spot. I think that they rally for a victory here.
I think this is going to be public on the Steelers and pros on the Colts. To
that's what we got.
Point.
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing so far, and I think that's going to continue.
Cross this game off immediately. Anthony Richardson scares me both ways.
Yeah.
Can do a lot of good, but he's still really a rookie quarterback, even though he's in year 2, and it's not a good defense to go against as an experienced quarterback. I just crossed this thing off immediately. All right, Chris, we say it all the time. You're not as bad as you look one week. And we're putting that to the test here with both of these teams.
Yeah, we are.
Jacksonville goes to Houston. Both teams were awful last week. Texans get blown out in Minneapolis. Jacksonville gets blown out on Monday night to fall to 0-3. The Bills do it to the Jags. Chris, there are some injury concerns on the Texans side. Nico Collins was limited in practice yesterday, but he's going to play this weekend. That's good news for them. Tank Dell right now looks like he's going to be out this week. Damian Pierce is out. Mixon questionable, but trending on the wrong direction. So a lot of injuries on that offense for Houston. Jacksonville, look, you're 0-3, and quite frankly, other than the first half against Miami in week 1, it has been 8 straight halves of pretty ugly football or 8 straight quarters, or 10 straight quarters. Math will eventually be my strong suit.
How many quarters?
10 quarters of mediocre football from Jacksonville. 6 right now, the number on Houston.
I think it's a big overreaction on how bad Jacksonville's been. Now, again, we talk about football in the NFL. You got to buy low and sell high. Well, both teams are at a low, but I think the overreaction towards Jacksonville is much more drastic than what we've done to Houston. I actually picked Houston to be a little disappointing this year. Not that they're not a good football team, but they're playing a first-place schedule this year where they played a fourth-place schedule last year. They're also now the hunted and not the hunter, and that does mean something. You're not going to fall asleep with Houston coming into town and assume that you're going to get a victory. So I kind of like Jacksonville in this game at the 6. I just think this game is just drifted too high. Didn't have a big beef with the opening number of 4. But now we're up to 6, and it just, it seems like the reaction and just too great, overreaction. It's just too great, and a part of how the public's looking at Jacksonville.
Perception is reality, right? To a lot of folks, and I think to Chrissy's point, that's what we're speaking to here. I think when the adjustment was made after Monday night, this game got as high as 7, didn't it, Chris? If I'm not mistaken,
I'm not sure.
It touched it.
It touched it. So, and then there was the blink, and you missed it. But we don't know what threshold we can get money back on. So, but I'll tell you right now, we're going to need the Jags in this game.
Oh yeah,
no doubt.
Feels like a good spot on Jacksonville to at least cover here. I'm not saying they're going to win the game outright, even at not as good of a number. I still think 6 is totally
desperate
fine
team
on Jacksonville in this spot. All right, let's go to Green Bay next. We're operating under the assumption that Jordan Love is going to play in this game. That's kind of what the number tells us, that they're 2.5-point favored.
He's looked good in practice.
Yeah, he quite honestly, it's all coming down to is he able to protect himself while he's out there?
Can he take a hit?
Can he take a hit?
It's a good defense here.
It's a good defense that has confused the hell out of everyone they've played so far. Minnesota's 3-0, the biggest mover to the positive so far this year in the National Football League. There's 2 threes left out there. They're mostly gone at this point, Chris. Again, I can't really do anything until I see if Jordan Love is going to play or not in this game.
Yeah, this is a 2.5, 3 toggler, so we definitely have that. Ticket counts on the Vikings. Sometimes that can tell you which way the public's on, which you don't always want to be on that side. I can tell you that. This might be the Coach of the Year game of the week, because I think both these guys right now would be probably the front runners in my book for Coach of the Year. I think they've both done a terrific job. With the Packers under much less than ideal circumstances, and the Vikings coming from really what we thought would be probably the worst team in the division. And now all of a sudden they're 3-0. I like the Vikings here, though, and I think, especially if, in one way I'd want Love to play, so then you make sure you get that 3 points, regardless, I think the Vikings are the right side, whether Love plays or not. So, when we go over my plays a little bit, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but I do like the Vikings.
Good game. One of the better games, not only of the morning, but of the day. And a bit of a surprise that this division is – we knew – the Lions we knew would be good. There was a lot of excitement about the Bears, and then certainly the Packers after, what they did late in the season last year and then going to Dallas and winning a playoff game. And the performance up in Palo Alto against the Niners. So, but the Vikings have been a surprise. So we've talked about it, right? Every year, 3 or 4 teams that made the playoffs the previous season are certainly going to struggle and not make the playoffs the following year, which opens the door for 3 or 4 that didn't to get in. And right now, the Vikings sitting at 3-0, and if you look at the projection on this game going into the season, I think it was about 5 or more, maybe even 6.
Probably,
so twice of what it is. So I it's a little risky bringing Love back against this defense, but they obviously feel that he's comfortable. He's been practicing all week. He's going to have a knee brace on, so if he plays, then this will continue. We'll see 3 whether it lasts or not. That's definitely the take on the game.
I want to just see Jordan Love play. That's as simple as that. Because if he doesn't play, then this is, if you've got good numbers on Minnesota, those are going to be gone. If it's Malik Willis, despite how well he's played through 2 games.
Very more than serviceable, right?
Again, like Chris said, this is right now, these 2 dudes, Mike Tomlin, Jim Harbaugh. Those are the 3 guys right now, or 4 guys for Coach of the Year that I would look at right now in the NFL. Not yet on Mike McDonald in Seattle. Beat someone good first and then talk.
We'll get to them in a minute.
We'll get to them a little bit later in the show. All right, Cincinnati is 0-3. They did not look like they could stop even some college teams last week. 38-33 loss to Washington on a Monday night, and Jaden Daniels coming out party. Andy Dalton was brilliant. What a sentence that is on last Sunday for Carolina.
Veteran quarterback.
He was great in that game and that blowout of the Raiders. We'll get to the Raiders later. That's a messy situation here in Vegas all of a sudden. Open 5.5 sight unseen, Chris, for Cincy, down to 4.5. And this has been a toggler ever since at 4.5 and 4 with the Bengals right now with that hook on.
The hook's back on because it was at 4 when I came on the air here. So evidently somebody laid the 4. I'm trying to. What did I make this game? I made it 3.5. So again, that's right there. But that can be. Listen. There's never too much variance in the pros. I don't know if it's enough to get you to play. But the Bengals right now, I think they got a lot of problems. And I said that at the beginning of the year, before even their first game. So I know how cheap Mike Brown is as an owner, and he had 12 rookies that made the team. Now, I know a lot of guys would think, wow, that's great for the future. I know how Mike Brown thinks. He goes, oh, my God, I got 12 rookie salaries. That's about 4 or 5 veterans I don't have to pay because I got 12 rookies. And, it's kind of come to fruition. The team is just not that solid right now. And, we can blame Burrow if you want, but he put up 30-some points last week. I'm not sure it was his fault. I saw some of the talking heads on ESPN say it was. I can't go there. But defensively, a lot of lapses on this team. I probably would take the Panthers gun to my head because I think Dalton. When did you see the backup quarterback come in and it moved 7 points to the positive?
Nah.
I'm 68 years old, Jeff. I have never seen that. It wasn't Johnny Unitas sitting on the bench because he was hurt. It was Andy Dalton got beat out, supposedly, by Bryce Young. And here he comes and came in, moved 7 points in the power ratings.
God.
It shows you just what a debacle. I would say Bryce Young, but really put it on Tepper, the owner.
It's not everybody there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still Carolina.
Yeah.
But I think I'd play Carolina if I had to.
Well, it's until the Bengals right things, it's difficult to back them, right? And it's interesting when in the NFL, a quarterback that's struggling, you can kind of feel it throughout the team. And then when there's a rejuvenation, when somebody comes in and gives you a shot of B12, like Dalton did a week ago, the rest of the team feels it too. I mean, there was a whole different vibe with that team last week, right from the beginning, and he brought that as a veteran. So here they are coming home against a team that's really asking themselves a lot of questions, including some of the coaching decisions in some of these games and things. So a team, one team that's trying to get things right is at home, and a team that's absolutely kind of they're just not in sync at all. Firing here. I mean, it's a play on the number, right? 4.5 is the take. Game was 6, by the way, and on a look ahead when you start the season.
Cincinnati loses game, season's over. Very simple. Might already be over.
But their work's cut out for them as it is, right?
If you're 0-4, you're done. So. Very, very simple on that from the Bengals' perspective, who only one of 3 winless teams in the National Football League so far this year. All right, let's go to Chicago next. A pair of 1 and 2s. I mean, the Rams, just shocking comeback against the Niners last week.
Yeah.
Win that game outright. You and I talked about it earlier in the week. 18.5 to 1 in that fourth quarter to come back and win that game against the Niners on the live money line in some shops. The Bears, look, defense has played well. The offense and the offensive line have been awful so far for Chicago. You guys open 1.5. This has been toggling between 3 and 2.5 for the better portion of 2.5 days now. Total 40.5. I can't say I'm surprised that the bettors like Chicago in this game. It does kind of feel like a good spot for Chicago if Caleb Williams is ever going to look like Caleb Williams in this early season portion of the schedule.
Well, I hope this coaching staff doesn't ruin him or this whole organization. You go back. Oh, my God, what are you going to do? Go back to Sid Luckman? I don't
Sammy
know.
Baugh.
Yeah. I mean, but, they moved up the draft Mitch Trubisky, who, by the way, everybody forgets, he had a hell of a rookie year. He was the front runner to be MVP the following year.
Yeah, that was wild in
okay.
retrospect. But
all right.
You are right.
But
they bet him.
But I'm telling you, this was money, Vinny.
Yes.
I mean, you saw it, too. The money was on Trubisky.
Absolutely.
They ruined him. I mean, maybe he was ripe to be ruined, but I don't want him to ruin this kid. I mean, this kid has a lot of talent, but right now they're not doing him any favors. And the bettors, the wise guys, the guys with the money are betting the Bears, but the dick account is clearly on the Rams in this game. I don't have a strong opinion here because I think this Ram team really showed a lot of guts last week. And, we talk about coach of the year. Maybe he's not going to be coach of the year, but he's a hell of a coach, McVay, for the Rams. How he put that team together and how he rallied that team and kept them in the game against the Niners last week was impressive.
And a difference at quarterback with an absolute warrior veteran in Stafford.
Yeah.
You know why the O-line for the Bears is struggling? Because Williams is trying to read, he's trying to go through his progressions, and it's a completely different set of circumstances than when he was at SC. This is the NFL. The way defenses get disguised, the speed in particular, and the power of the defenses. So when you couple those things, it's going to make for struggles. It's growing pains. But that said, we talked about O-line. That's where a lot of the Rams injuries lie. They've not had the same offensive line in any of their games so far. They've had injuries. Their two leading receivers are out still. So, but again, this is a warrior team that beat the NFC, one of the top teams in terms of the Super Bowl futures last week in San Francisco, and came back and showed a lot of guts. So this is gonna be a good game. It's probably gonna continue to toggle back and forth. We're taking 3 is if you like the Rams, and laying the 2.5 if you like the Bears.
Excuse me, I got it. You called them a warrior team. I think that's exactly what they were. Yeah. How did this team? They were dead, Vinny.
Sure.
They're down 14 in the fourth quarter to the 49ers.
Yeah, that's it. Double digits too in the fourth quarter.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, how can you come back and win that game? But these, Stafford, he's personally, I think he's a Hall of Famer. I really do.
Oh,
I think it might be a little close, but I think he is a Hall of Famer. But this kid, I mean, he kept them together. And you can see he, again, veteran quarterback.
Beat up every game. He gets banged around every game and just gets right. He stays in.
I'm highly impressed with the coaching staff, impressed with Stafford, and just how that whole team hung in there under horribly dire circumstances. But they did it.
It's a wild win. It's going to be hard to find a win that ends up being as high in the fourth quarter on the money line as that one. Yeah. I can say that. But what a win it was last week for the Rams. It could be hard to do it again, but look, that offensive line for the Bears has really struggled so far this year. All right, let's go to the Meadowlands. The Jets welcome the Broncos. New York, 7.5-point favorites. Last week, the Jets were the only team that closed north of a 5-point favorite to win outright. Everybody else lost as a big favorite a week ago. The Jets, 7.5 against a rookie quarterback. Total hasn't really moved from 38.5 to 39.5. Initial buy was on Denver, but it has gone back up the half point.
Yeah, we went down to 7 with this game, but it's back up to 7.5. Boy, I don't know. Boy, Denver. I mean, hard to get a great read on this team. I think really the Jets are pretty legit. The fact that Rodgers is there, I think, has really put a bounce in their step, and the defense is playing well. And I'm horrible with the names. What's the guy who didn't sign the defensive lineman for?
Reddick's still not there.
Yeah, Reddick
he's
not
still not there. He's not going to be there anytime soon.
Boy, I tell you, I mean, and I tweeted this out. Andrew Brandt said something about it. He can't believe that the agent could be so selfish that he's telling his guy not to make $800,000 a week. I said, is that Le'Veon Bell's agent? Because that's exactly what Le'Veon Bell did, and ruin his career. But I don't know. It's hard with the 7.5, but I kind of lean towards the Jets in this game. I don't think I'd be out there playing it. I don't want to lay that kind of number, but I don't think I can go with the Broncos in this one. I kind of like the Jets.
Broncos defense has been pretty decent.
Yeah.
And Knicks had a great game last week. I think for the Jets, they found a recipe last week, even though they won the week before. But it wasn't like Levis was great in that game either. He's made some mistakes, and I'm sure we'll talk about the Titans from Monday night. But the difference last week was Rodgers utilized the tight ends more, and I think that was something that helped because, Denver will probably try to bring pressure to rush him some, and there's definitely a difference there. So you've got an absolute, the quintessential veteran at quarterback on the Jets going against Bo Nix, the rookie, for Denver here, and I think there's going to be continued support. The Jets will be one of the stronger teaser plays by the public this week. So.
If that version of Aaron Rodgers from Thursday night shows up for the majority of this season, that is a team that can play for the AFC Championship.
Yeah, they'll be in it.
The question is, at the age of 40, can that version of Aaron Rodgers show up more than maybe 3-4 times this year? That's really the big question mark. But if that Jet offensive line holds up, they are down Morgan Moses this week. First-round pick Ola Fashanu out of Penn State's going to start at right tackle, first career start. Likely without C.J. Mosley. Again, he didn't play last Thursday. But I think Vinny mentioned it. Rookie quarterback against this defense, even without Mosley, does not seem like a good mix. And I thought last week's result for Denver had a hell of a lot more to do with what Tampa didn't do as opposed to what Denver did.
Yeah.
So I don't love laying 7.5, but this will be in teasers for me for sure.
I got to tell you, Rodgers looks pretty good.
Yeah, he looked great last week.
Yeah, he really does.
Great last week. Speaking of Tampa, let's go to Tampa next. They welcome the Eagles. Injuries galore in this game, real quick.
Yeah.
On the Philadelphia side, Smith, see you later. We did see A.J. Brown at practice, surprisingly, today. He's been upgraded to questionable this week, so might see him. Lane Johnson, concussion protocol still unexpected to be out of it by the time of the game. We mentioned it last week, Tampa's injuries on defense. Basically, half their starting defense was out, but Vita Vea did practice today, so expecting trending the right way for Vea. Eagles, if Brown doesn't play, the Eagles are on their their fourth and fifth receivers at this point because Britton Covey was also put on IR this week. I don't know. If Tampa's defense is healthy here, this feels like healthier and Vea plays. This feels like a case of wrong team favored with all the injuries on the Philly side.
So many injuries both ways, but Vita Vea is a big difference for that defense. And I'll tell you what, this would be a hard game for me to touch either way just because there's so many injuries. You don't know really what kind of squad you're getting. But Vita Vea, I think he's a terrific player. But look at that, what Tampa's defense did last week, or really what they didn't do last week, which was show up. And does he mean that much to that team? I don't know. But, boy, this one, there's a couple games this week that are hard to play either way. This would be one of them for me. Gun to my head, I'd probably take Tampa Bay. Just because how could they possibly be as bad as they were last week? Because they were really, really bad. I don't know if Vita Vea means 25 points to this team. Probably means a little something. But, just so many injuries on both teams. And, Jeff, it seems like we're getting a lot of those for week 4 and already getting a ton of injury information. And I'm sure somebody will have something to say about it, but I'm not sure it's anything more than just happenstance.
Saquon Barkley's been a huge difference maker for the Eagles, and it's been a great fit. But I still think that coaching staff is there's something out of sync with with that. Credit them for what they did. They came back last week and beat the Saints in New Orleans. Buccaneers have to respond. After the way they got dominated last week. And by the way, remember last year, I think the Eagles went down to Tampa, and it's not that long ago. I mean, it was a pretty convincing. It was a one-sided game where the Bucks beat them pretty good. Now I think, and we knew they were in a slide at that time too, right? But I think this Eagle team is better than they were a year ago. But again, I don't know. There's something I can't put my finger on it, but I don't get the sense that the coaching staff is in sync.
You're being polite, I think, on the coaching staff, Vinny. I think you're being polite.
So you agree?
Yeah, 100% agree. Sirianni is just, he did everything wrong in that game in New Orleans and got away with it. The only thing that's been positive, Fangio really, after the first drive, coached a really good game last week, confusing Derek Carr.
Yeah, he did.
And really slowing down the New Orleans defense. But
I think Sirianni made a comment, excuse me, Jeff, this week to say he's going to kind of back off. And I
Okay,
almost got the
sure,
sense that
sure.
that he's going to let the coordinators do their thing. Whether or not he can help himself, I don't
I
know.
think that's a bigger if, Vinny,
So-
for sure. Let's go to a fascinating game in this afternoon window. Arizona welcomes Washington here.
Mm-hmm.
Washington, of course, off the huge upset on Monday night against the Bengals. The Commanders haven't punted in 2 games. How about that? 2 games without a punt for Washington.
Haven't had to.
Arizona, a tight game, didn't cover, though, against the Lions after their shellacking of the Rams 2 weeks ago. Guys are only flat 3.5 in the market. You opened 5.5, sight unseen, and it took a day, but it moved 2 full points when you moved it to 3.5. Total 49 behind us. That is the highest total of the week in the National Football League.
Well, we say the team can't be as bad as they looked last week. How about not as good as they looked last week, too? Right now, Washington is playing some terrific football 2 weeks in a row. Their offense, certainly. Are they that good? I'm not so sure. Listen, I like Daniels. Again, we've been, one of the themes we've hit on this show is, experience of the quarterback. And Daniels had certainly much more experience than Caleb Williams. He's come in and so far has shown that, but it's still early. I'm not sure he's quite as good as he's looked the last 2 weeks. I'm just not so sure. I think Cardinals right here might be the play. I mean, if it gets down, certainly if it gets down below the 3.5, would you see any of that in the market right now, Jeff?
They're going to lay 3.
All the 3.5 is juice to the dog. So
you may want to play 3.5 even money. That's not the worst play in the world. But I kind of like the favorite here at even at the 3.5.
I think the Cardinals are going to get support here. They're going to be carryover from the morning to them in this game, and even though the Commanders have gotten the early action, we're going to need the Commanders in this game.
You think so, Vinny?
I got a feeling.
I'm not so sure.
I got a feeling.
This kind of feels like a Pro v. Joe game.
It feels like, yeah.
I mean, this kid, pros on Arizona, Joe's on Washington with the last thing we saw. I think that's where this all goes when it's all said and done. I like Arizona. I thought this number, that 5.5 you opened, was right.
That's what I thought was the right number.
And 3.5, all right. Yeah, you got to adjust a little bit for Monday night, but it's not like Washington's defense did much on Monday night either. Cincinnati didn't punt. The only time Cincinnati.
Is that right? They didn't punt?
It was the first game since 1940 with no punts and no turnovers, Chris. How about that?
Game.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's, the only time there was no points on the board was when McPherson missed the field goal and kneel downs. That was it. The only times. All right, let's go to San Francisco next. Niners got some good injury news today. George Kittle's going to play. Deebo Samuel is at practice also, so he's questionable. Still no set of Christian McCaffrey.
I think he's going to be gone for a while.
It'll be a while until they see him.
He's still
in Munich.
He's staying there for a bit. I don't think we'll see him. We might not see him until November. If it's a stem cell type of treatment, we're not going to see him until the second half of the season.
You guys have market low on this game on the Niners at 10. There's 10.5. There's even 11 in the market now. New England, of course, very unimpressive on Thursday and getting shellacked by the Jets. The first 2 weeks, they were good. One in Cincinnati, took Seattle to overtime at home. But right now, 10 behind us with a total of 40.5 on this one.
Well, we got bet.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't go from 11 to 10 for the hell of it.
I know.
So, we got bet. And we'll probably be back to certainly 10.5. I don't know about 11, but we'll be back to 10.5 most likely. But we're down at this number from action, and what provided that the impulse for that action was the injury report for the Niners, which now has certainly gotten a little bit better. So maybe that'll get us back to 10.5. But I don't know if we're going to see 11 again in this game.
Extra half week to prepare might not be enough for the Patriots. Still a deep team in the Niners, and I don't think that the Patriots want to get into a shootout. So we'll see. But Niners. Speaking of O-lines, they've got some injuries on the O-line as well. But if Samuel and Kittle can play, that's a big upgrade.
Huge difference
for them
if that happens to be the case. And Kittle's already ruled in. Samuel will be closer to a game time decision for the Niners in that one. All right. Now for a game, the better question is who is actually playing in this one for Cleveland and Las Vegas. All right. On the Raiders side, a surprise came down today. Max Crosby and Devontae Adams were both ruled out by Antonio Pierce, even though the Raiders injury report did something weird with Crosby where he was listed as doubtful and not out. But Pierce saying he's out, I think, is as good of a telltale sign as we're going to get on the Raiders side. That also Mike Meyer, their backup tight end's also going to be out as well. Though all those unexpected. On the side of the Browns, no David Njoku again, and both offensive tackles are out. Mm-hmm. Jack Conklin and Jedrick Willis are both out. Biatonio's dealing with something. They're all world left guard. Also, even with all those offensive line injuries, because of the news of Crosby and Adams, the favorite flipped here. Now it's Cleveland won after Vegas was 1 or 1.5 most of the week.
So when I made my numbers Monday morning or Sunday night, I thought the Browns won was the right number. Mm-hmm. Then of course we got, and I think I opened at pick if I'm not.
You opened at 1.
I opened who?
The Brownies won on Monday morning. Yeah.
Well, they bet me. I mean, we got bet heavily on the Raiders. You know, so now as the market has moved the other way due to the injury news on the Raiders, and I'm thinking we are. Yeah, we're still a little bit behind the market, which I don't mind being because we had so much money on the Raiders. I just said, listen, it won't hurt us to take a bet. We could take a bet. I mean, I'm not going to go crazy on it, but I don't mind being a half point under the market. So if you're looking for, if you want to bet the Browns. So if you want to bet the Browns, we probably have the best number in town just because I'm so loaded on Raider money. But, come on in and bet us. And I always say when they bet us, we'll move the number. But until then, I'm not going anywhere just for the hell of it right now.
Big response by the fans. A lot of Brown fans are coming to town for this game, and no real surprise, right? But
first time in Vegas for Cleveland.
Yeah. So
you get out of Cleveland to come to Vegas for a weekend, Vinny. Can you blame anybody?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
They, they love it. And there's a lot of Browns fans. We have a lot of friends that are transplants that are here and are going to attend the game as well, Chrissy.
My wife was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last week.
Yeah, there you go. So this, Watson is not having a good year for the Browns, and I think that can be traced exactly to your point, Jeff, about the O-line injuries. That's certainly not helping things. But you talk about some coaching decisions too, and again, not to be a Monday morning quarterback, but there's some. They're coming to the right town because Stefanski likes to gamble, and we've seen him gamble quite a bit on the field in this early season. I suspect we'll see him on the tables at some point this weekend as well.
Yeah, I think Cleveland's problems all reside with the quarterback. Well, let's just go with that.
The O-line injuries are not helping him at all. I'm not.
The quarterback.
It's not an excuse, but
the quarterback has been. We brought it up on Monday. The quarterback has been the worst quarterback in the NFL, non-Bryce Young, so far by 6 major statistics.
I think we could blame both owners of the Carolina and Jimmy Haslam. And you know what's bad? Both of them have Pittsburgh connections. That's what's really bad. I mean, come on.
So let's go to a game that injuries also are going to play a role in as well. Chargers hosting the Chiefs. 7.5 on this one right now. This line's moved all over the place. Chargers-wise, let's go here. Rashawn Slater, out, pec injury. Joey Bosa, out, hip injury. Junior Colson, starting linebacker, out, hamstring. Justin Herbert is questionable. Amazingly, Joe Alt is questionable. I don't think there's a shot in him playing with the way he went off the field last week in Pittsburgh. And that's where we're sitting right now. Uncertain yet of who's going at left tackle for the Chargers. Pipkins will probably move out to the outside of Alt can't go. But boy, going up against Kansas City, where if, that defense still does not quite get the credit they deserve.
Good point.
They're great up front, excellent in the secondary. This is not a good matchup to be going into without potentially your 2 best offensive linemen. And also, of course, with your quarterback and Herbert banged up with that foot and ankle that has been bugging him all year so far.
It's really the defense that have carried Kansas City from last year through this year. Now, I know this year they have not looked great so far. They're still 3-0.
Yep.
I mean,
Find a way.
Listen, Andy Reid is, there was a lot of questions about his decision-making earlier in his career, and then I thought he made a lot of good decisions. He made some questionable ones, but I think all coaches do. But he came to Kansas City, and now he's probably regarded as, if he's not the best coach in the league, he's got to be right there. And, of course, having Patrick Mahomes doesn't hurt. And Patrick's one of those guys that, really knows how to win football games. And he obviously gets a ton of credit, which I think he deserves. But it's that defense that I think is not getting the credit that they deserve. They've carried this team, really, like I said, through last year and so far this year. But, I made my number 7, even with all the injuries. Boy, tough to take it. If you're just taking 7.5 or 8, I'm not sure that's enough. But, I made the number 7. I think that was okay. We'll see what this number goes from here, as the injury report might get a little better for the Chargers. I'm not sure if it will or won't. But if it gets better, I think you might want to take an 8 if you see it.
It might get there. Herbert doesn't play. We know he's not 100%.
Well, yeah.
Right,
yeah.
too. So that's to Chris's point, really bear that in mind and watch it, because there'll be no shortage of Chiefs fans there. It's a home game in terms of travel only.
Yeah.
All right, for the Chargers. But we saw what happened. Look at last week's game, the Ram game. SoFi is not the home field for either the Rams or the Chargers.
Nope. All right, let's go to Sunday night. Doozy of a game on Sunday night. Buffalo goes to Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Bills have looked every part of the team that I think a lot of us, not me, but a lot of people out there thought would be the last few years. And so far through 3 games, they've been awesome so far. Now, this is a step up in class with Baltimore coming up. Ravens get off the schneid. They beat Dallas last week. They screw around in the fourth quarter to make that game close. But here you are. 2.5 on this game. Actually, back up to 2.5 from where it had been sitting at 2 most of the week, Chris. With a total of 46.5 on this excellent Sunday night football game.
I always said you should take the 2.5s when they show up, because that means the favorite isn't strong enough to be 3. I didn't. A little flash ahead there. This was not one of my plays, but it was borderline. Because I do think Buffalo is just that much better. Been saying it for a couple of years. The Ravens, it just seems they don't quite put it all together when they need to do it. And Buffalo, listen, we can go back the famous 13 seconds against Kansas City, or else this team's in the Super Bowl and maybe has a Super Bowl win. And we would view this team entirely differently. But I do think Buffalo's the right side. And I know the public's all over Buffalo. The sharp guys are on the Ravens. But that's the way it goes. I do think that I think the public is right in this case. I think Buffalo is the right side.
Bills are just playing better. I mean, Ravens, when you think about it, they had the big lead last week. They almost blew it. They could be 0-3.
Yeah.
Another team where quarterback and coach, they've been together a long time. A little out of sorts from what I've seen so far. But listen, it'll be a good betting game. Everything's going to be rolling to it, which is certainly going to impact this number, whether it goes up or down, right? So you may see 3 if there's a lot of carryover to it, depending on what happens, not only with the betting, but with the carryover of that betting. And it does hit 3. That's certainly going to be a take.
I just want to see from Buffalo how much of what has occurred the first 3 weeks, how much of that is the fact that they haven't played the best of competition, even though they were a dog in week 2, kind of seeing what's happened with Miami, in part because of what Buffalo did to them. Or is this just the year where Josh Allen wins the MVP going away and Buffalo wins 12, 13 games, and it's the year they got to get to the Super Bowl, the year that they get rid of Diggs.
Is it addition by subtraction? I was just going to say that. It might be.
Just want to throw a quick Lamar Jackson note out there. In games that are lined less than 3 either way, so either as the dog or the favorite, in a game lined less than 3, Jackson is 17-2 against the number in his NFL career.
Really?
Yeah.
can't include too many Pittsburgh games.
Yeah, I think both of those losses are to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I know he doesn't have a very good record against Pittsburgh.
Might be a lot of 3 and 3.5 in that. So everything that doesn't quite get to 3 either way has been good for Lamar and the Ravens in that era. All right, 2 Monday Night Football games before we get out of here, and of course we'll have Chris's plays at the end. We don't know who's playing quarterback for Miami yet. We don't know. Could be Skylar Thompson, could be Tim Boyle, could be Tyler Huntley. It could be you sitting there on the couch watching us right now. We don't know. With that said, the Titans are 0-3 and have not looked particularly good because of turnover machine Will Levis, who's leading the NFL with 9 turnovers through 3 games. Defense has been fine for the most part in Brian Callahan's first year. Even with not knowing he was playing quarterback for Miami, the Dolphins are still a 1-point favorite in this game with a total of 37 on Monday night, Chris.
Our friend, Mr. ACL, I think he's going to be coming back on the show fairly soon. He said last week this might be the worst quarterback matchup in the history of the NFL. He thought it was going to be Tim Boyle. So
trust me, I've watched enough Jet games to know that's
I was just going to say, if you're a Jet fan, you'd get a challenge.
Where's Ryan McCormick? He's watched a lot of Bears games, too.
And also Ryan Lindley played in the NFL more than he should have also. Just throwing that out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, I made a number. Miami won. I don't know what to make it. I mean, it's this is another one. And by the way, Michael Gaughan in our meeting on Tuesday. Why do they have 2 games at the same time on Monday? This is the Chris Andrews series. One of these games figured to stink.
Yeah.
So you got another game to watch. I mean, look at last week. Look at last week. And we'll look at the lineup this week. Now, we haven't gotten the second game yet. The second game should be pretty good.
Second game's going to be awesome.
Even if this game's close, doesn't mean it's a good game. It might be a terrible game. I have a feeling it will be close, and it will be a terrible game. So at least people have an option as to which game they want to watch. That's my theory. But, I don't know. I think it might hold water.
I think it's a bet against Levis so far. That's on the road. That's frankly what I think we're seeing here.
All I will throw out there is, if this is Thompson or Boyle, this is a bet on Tennessee, even with the Levis issue. Because watching Thompson before he got hurt last week, oh my God. I know Seattle is a reasonable defense, but Miami couldn't move the ball. With the speed demons on the outside, you at least should be able to hit one deep pass. They couldn't do anything. And we know how bad Boyle is. Boyle threw, obviously, the Hail Mary last year, a pick 6 on a Hail Mary, which should be impossible in this league. So, or any level of football.
Might be an in-gamer.
If it's Huntley, that's the only hesitation I have at all. Again, he's still learning the offense, but I know that guy's better than both of those dudes. I can tell you that right now. All right. A great Monday night game to wrap up the slate for the week. Lions against the Seahawks. Seattle's had Detroit's number the last few years. They've gone to Detroit and beaten the Lions in Ford Field back-to-back years. And both of those games were high scoring. They've been over 35 points in both of those games for Seattle. Now Seahawks come in at 3-0. Lions are 2-1. Not overly impressive, but still 2-1 through 3 games. And quite frankly, they should be 3-0. They shouldn't have lost that Tampa game with the way it played out. Chris, 3.5 right now, 46.5 for what should be a very fun night in Detroit, even though this has been mostly Seattle action so far.
From the sharp guys, there's no question about a lot of Seattle action. And I think just something I look at over the years, the wise guys are where they differ from the public is they look more defense than they look at offense. And I think right now Seattle's defense has played very well. Now, who have they played? So there comes the question. Jared Goff has really not played very well at quarterback for Detroit. And they've managed to win, their couple of games anyway. They have a lot of talent on this team, though. I really think Detroit's one of the deepest teams in the NFL. And I think Goff will get it together. Again, this is pros versus Joes. I'm not sure the Joes don't have the right side here. I kind of think they might. I'm not crazy about the number, but once again, like I say, you're supposed to take the 2.5s. Probably should lay the 3.5s. So I kind of like Detroit in this spot, going against the wise guys.
I'm going to tell you, Chrissy's right. There's going to be money for the Lions come this weekend and on Monday. This number's Maybe it'll go to 3, but I could tell you, whether it's 3 or 3.5, this number's still going to start heading north and go back towards the opener.
I'm with you, Chris. Seahawks haven't played anyone.
Yeah.
Played Bo Nix, Jacoby Brissett, and the Thompson Boyle masterpiece.
Easy for that defense to look good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, Jared Goff has his flaws, and he hasn't been great this year so far.
Not at all, no.
This feels like a good spot for Jared Goff to look like the Jared Goff of last year. I think the Lions roll him, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And at 3.5, I mean, somehow if we get a 3, I got to not blink, as Vinny would say, and bet that 3, but I think Vinny's right, too. I think we see this go higher before we get going on Monday night. All right, before we go, Chris Andrews, 8 plays this week for you.
I got 8 plays?
8.
7.
Oh, I'm bad at math. Again, 7 plays for
You
Chris
sound
Andrews.
like, did you see Frank on this morning when he said it's a 7 out of 6 of, I'm thinking, wait a second.
Oh,
There's a couple of internet betting operations that might try to hire Frank with that kind of
7
math.
out of 6?
I was gonna
7 out of 6.
I was going to say, Frank, I might be spending too much time with Frank
Those
with these math wonders today.
All right, so you can pass. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Vinny.
You can pass on a new term to Frank. Frankalytics.
Oh, there we go. So 3 in the NFL, 4 in college this week for Chris.
One thing about Frankalytics, Vinny, 2 things that's going to come with a minus and an over. So,
You want me to roll through them for everyone? For
sure,
you?
why not?
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Chris is on Nebraska -10 against Purdue. Oklahoma State +5 against Kansas State. Iowa State -16 against Houston. Fresno State +2 against UNLV. Frank, close your ears here. Colts +2 against the Steelers.
Oh, that's why I wore my Steelers shirt.
I know. The Steelers can still win the game, though. They can win the game by 1, and the Colts can cover.
17-16.
17-16, 21-20 right now. Jaguars +6 against the Texans, and the Vikings +3 against the Packers.
So you're willing to go 6-1?
Oh, can I sign up for that now, Vinny?
6-1 would be pretty good for.
There you go.
What's my record so far this year?
Well, math has been a problem for me so far today. So let me just make sure I got this right. Chris Andrews is 13-6 so far.
Nice
Yeah,
number.
I think that's what
nice
I am.
ratio.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I wanted you to say I won 13 out of 12 games or something like that.
19 out of 18 for Chris so far. That's all we got for you today. We're back tomorrow morning on this show. Myself, Alex White. Get you ready for college football. Big Saturday in college football, 8 a.m. Maybe we'll have even a Magliulo appearance tomorrow at the end of the program as we do on these Saturdays.
Yeah, he'll be around.
I think he'll be around. And of course, this program every Friday, starting at 2 o'clock, gets you ready. Chris, Vinny, Jimmy, always a pleasure. Jerry, Sean, thank you as always. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again next time. Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy.